To order tonight's chapel meeting of March 9th at 7 p.m. And I would like to invite the fourth graders from Newtown Elementary School to come up and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Get you all up here. And you guys start to follow.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who's going to give the invitation?
Actually, they have a little speech for us.
Turn this down.
Did you know that North Carolina is one of only 17 states to have a state pledge? The General Assembly adopted a pledge in 2007. Please join us as we recite the state pledge. Please follow me. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the Old North States love, loyalty, and faith.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to invite Pastor Brian from Wesley Chapel United Methodist Church to do our invocation tonight.
Let's pray. Father, there are so many good things happening in this community. We know it's a result of your blessing and the hard work of many people. And for both we give thanks. And as we enter into this meeting tonight, we know that there are things that we want to make progress on, things that need decisions. And for those issues that aren't quite clear what the right decision is, Father, we pray for your wisdom. And Father, for things decisions and actions that will be taken that affect people's lives, I pray that you'll keep in our hearts and minds the need for compassion as well. And for all that gets accomplished tonight, for all that is done, for all the ways in which we continue to grow as a community, we'll give you honor and praise and glory. And it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Newtown Elementary. If y'all need to go, you know that you have some reading to do for kids and practice. So thank you, Pastor Brian. Next on our agenda is public comment.
Wesley Chapel. We consider ourselves longtime residents of Wesley Chapel. We've been here about 25 years. And I've stood before council many years ago to make the same request I'm about to ask for. And we were successful then. And I hope we are equally successful tonight. Tonight you will hear from the Weddington Optimist President and other community members regarding a funding request from Wesley Chapel for continued development and care of our community athletic park a short 2 miles down the road from where we sit this evening. Although we now have our own Wesley Chapel Dogwood Park almost across the street from Optimist Park, both parks serve our community in very different ways. The Optimist Park, in tandem with Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association, or WCWAA, provide the athletic programs within our community and along with it give so many benefits to our residents. The Optimist Park draws from towns of Wesley Chapel, Weddington, Waxhaw, and Marvin. Thousands of families have participated through the years with basketball, football, soccer, baseball, softball, and now lacrosse. Structured recreation grows strong children, offers physical, emotional, and mental health to our students, and so much more. The programs run out of Optimist Park act as a feeder system to our middle school and high schools. Athletic programs, which in turn feed college opportunities for our young athletes. I know there are more than one of you sitting here that enjoy athletic competition in this room. For our own family, we have cultivated lifelong friends through our association with the Optimist Park. Many in this room I have met through the Optimist Park. Our park offers an instant connectivity to our communities through play, coaching, and volunteer opportunities. Now, these programs do not come cheaply. Although fees are charged for participation, constant care and maintenance for this aging park is a financial reality. With all that Wesley Chapel benefits from the Optimist Park, I ask that you consider a donation tonight to fund some of the much-needed immediate projects and also consider a line item in the budget going forward. With so many from our community benefiting from this park, it only seems just that some of our residents' tax dollars go to this important part of our community. It takes a village to support a multifaceted program. As a resident of Wesley Chapel, I do hope we do our part in supporting Optimist Park.
Thank you, Jen. I'm not Jan Erwin.
My writing's not very good.
No.
I type.
Sorry. Please state your name and
Okay, my name is Joan Bovier. I reside at 1081 Nicholas Drive in Wesley Chapel. Mine is more personal than Sherry's was broad about the park, but I know Bill Dieder's going to speak later regarding WCWAA. I felt the need to share the importance that WCWAA in the park has been in my life. The park was one of the factors that entered into our decision to make Wesley Chapel our home. Our girls were playing fast-pitch softball in Ohio before we moved here in 1996. My husband was coaching them. It was an important part of our life. They were in 4th and 7th grade, which was not an easy time to move, especially for our 7th grader. And when we saw that park was so close and had softball available, it made the move more palatable to them. They enjoyed the experience they had with WCWA and went on to play in high school. My husband coached them when we moved here and went on to become softball commissioner for WCWAA for 5 years. It was a second family to us. We felt a real sense of community. The park was a very positive experience for our family, and we are so fortunate that the sports facility is in our community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Joan. Next we have Jason Smith. Could you please state your name and address?
My name is Jason Smith. I reside at 407 Jim Parker Road, Monroe, North Carolina. I also come before you tonight to speak in support of Bill Dieder's presentation for municipal support for WCWA. My wife and I are both native Union County residents. She's a lifelong resident of Wesley Chapel. We have 7 children, 5 of which play within various roles at the association. We homeschool our kids, which means we can't participate in public schools, so the association is our kids' sports program. And this allows our children opportunities to develop friendships they wouldn't have otherwise not going to school. Our youngest, Wilson, he just started playing. He's playing t-ball, and he has a bit of a speech problem, and we're kind of worried about him playing, and the kids and the coaches have all been very well receptive to him thus far, and he'll only benefit from that interaction. Another one of mine, the 8U, she plays 8U softball, and she's picked up the pitching bug from her big sister who got it from Coach Don Eisenberg, a coach who has coached his own daughters who are now grown, and now he gives back to the community in helping this age group develop and flourish a love for the game. My son Eli is playing his 2nd season of kid pitch, and he asked me to head coach, and I reluctantly say yes with everything else I got going on. But I see the sense of pride in him that his dad is coaching, and we can spend time together on the field. My oldest is Lily. She plays 13U softball, and I help her coach in various roles up until the point of them getting me to be the commissioner of softball at Weddington now, in just entering into that role. We've turned down various requests for travel ball opportunities to leave WCA, but each year we keep returning. Number one, because it's convenient with 7 kids living this close. And there's a real sense of family there. So much so in the fall of 2018, my wife gave birth to our 7th, and she lost a lot of blood and almost died, and she stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. Well, during that time, our softball family stepped in and carried the kids to and from the field, and had sleepovers and that kind of stuff. And they surprised us with a gift card tree. I've never heard of these things, but it has a bunch of gift cards stuck in it. and envelopes of cash, and my wife's just opening these gift cards, and the cash just falls out from people she doesn't even know. Her tears are just rolling down her face. She's like, "Who are these people?" And I'm like, these are the people that are from the fields, our family. And I tell you these stories not to draw attention to us, but to draw attention to WCA. And our stories are not the only stories out at the fields. Thousands of families live here and impacted in the youth sports program, and this association is in essence the municipal sports league for Wesley Chapel and the surrounding towns. Fees only increase and not decrease over the years. My family alone pays almost $1,300 to play just this spring, not to mention all-stars and equipment and all that kind of stuff. So municipal funds would only strengthen the Weddington Optimist Club and WCA's partnership to positively impact families for our community for years to come. Thank you.
And back here, Reed Helms. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Reed Hales, born and raised in Union County. And I brought my buddy with me, Dylan Hales, who works for Edward Jones right down the street. Union County Crime Stoppers is a non-profit organization, 501c3. So we've got to be good stewards of our money. So he keeps us straight.
And your address?
7035 Olive Branch Road, Marshall, North Carolina. I have 30 active years in police work, retired as a captain from Monroe Police Department. And in March the 1st of this year, I've got 26 additional years as a reserve deputy sheriff with Frank McWork and Eddie Cappy. And you people don't know it, you've got a fine sheriff in this county, Eddie Cappy. Crime Stopper started July the 9th, 1981, Dr. Paul Helms. And we depended on donations and people giving us money here and there, but it didn't work. So we initiated the Crime Stopper Barbecue, and this was our 28th year. If you give each one of them a copy of our barbecue last year, they'll see what's going on there. And it's been very successful, but we pay out a lot of money. Crime Stopper was the second Crime Stopper started in North Carolina. And there's only 2 counties out of 100 counties in North Carolina that pays $5,000, and that is Mecklenburg and Union. But money talks. Typically, historically, cities and towns do not budget money to pay tips to law enforcement. How do I know of in this Union County? There's 15 municipalities, and I know of no one in this county that does that. So, law enforcement, when I started out as a Chapel Police, you didn't have the luxury of money for Crime Stoppers. They give you a gun and badge and say, go out and enforce the law. 2 years ago, y'all might remember, there was 4 dudes robbed a garage and stole Waxhaw. But they didn't know they stole a tractor. And they were tracked almost near Columbia, South Carolina, and 4 arrests were made. And the result of that, we paid $1,000, but we started paying $5 about 3 years ago. I don't know whether you ever knew this man or not. His name was S.A. Flow. He lived in Indian Trail. He was on the city council in Indian Trail for 36 years. Somebody broke in on him, stabbed him to death, and robbed him. 5 months later, there was nothing. The sheriff had nothing on him. And I went to the Inquirer-Journal. I said, let's run a story. We'll pay $5,000. 5 days later, a tip come in. He's in jail now, waiting trial for first-degree murder. There's 53 schools in this county. Count elementary, middle grade, and high schools, 5 charters, 9 private. And we work with all them schools, especially the public schools. We've got resource officers there. Right recently, you might remember it was on all the TV stations right out here on Wesley Chapel Road. Some dude in a big dually, road rage, forced his car to stop and got out and shot the gun up there. Any of y'all remember that? Somebody tipped the sheriff's office, and they made an arrest on him. Arrest this guy. We paid $500 for that because those people were scared to death. They thought they were going to be killed. At our last Crime Stoppers meeting on February 20th, we paid out $2,000 for a tip on a homicide in Monroe. And that tip led to his arrest. A lot of news publicity, a lot of words about it. The Latino lady, 6 months ago, Dylan, maybe 8 months ago, the Latino lady was killed in Monroe in front of her children. We got a tip, drew arrest warrants, and with the FBI and SBI went to Lexington, South Carolina, picked that dude up, and he's in jail now. That is because of a tip. Money talks. We survive on donations, and our biggest fundraiser is Crime Stoppers Barbecue, and that's what we survive on. I'll tell one more. There's two more sad cases that I'll tell, and in my opinion, in my law enforcement career, was two of the worst cases I ever worked. 4 or 5 dudes sitting around Unionville over there. Said, let's go to town and get some cocaine. They said, well, we don't know where to go. This guy said, I know exactly where to go. He went. He gave the black dude $60. After about an hour of snorting and tasting, it was flour. Well, he got real angry. And he went back over there with a bow and arrow. He said, I'm going to kill that dude. Well, he aimed at the fellow who he thought sold him cocaine, and that arrow hit a 12-year-old girl in an aorta and killed her. She died. She's been in the hospital. And we paid big money on that tip right there. And the other one was real violent. At the Monroe Mall, there was a 9 months pregnant woman who was kidnapped, robbed, raped, and killed. And we cleared that case on a tip. Crime Stoppers does work, and I'd like to go ask you some questions about this, because we work, me and Dylan work mighty hard on this thing. Have you got some of those posters there?
We passed them around.
Yeah. Any help y'all can give us? And other towns that have helped us is Indian Trail, Henry Bridge, Unionville, Fairview, Marshall, Winnick, New Salem, and Monroe. They've all, in the last 2 years, started helping us in donations so we can keep this program going. And of course, we got a lot of good officers in this county, and they help us put this thing on. It's a county-wide thing. And I appreciate y'all letting us come and speak tonight. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them, correct answer. Man with a gun ought to have some kind of question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, next on our agenda, we are, for those of you that don't know it, our current mayor is having some issues and has requested that we appoint an active mayor for General Statute 160A-70 in the interim until she can return.
I'll make a motion, we have Amanda serve as acting mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
The mayor, and Amanda is our mayor pro tem. She was our number 2, now she's been bumped up.
Just keep it a secret. So for additions, deletions, and
Amanda?
adoption.
Did you want to do opening council comments?
Yes, let's get that. Just already following. Opening council comments. We'll start with David.
Oh, you're switching it up, huh? All right, cool. Council has already understood that I'm a man that likes quotes, good quotes. Martin Luther King said that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you got to keep moving forward. I think we all understand sometimes that can be quite misleading, especially whenever it comes to terms of government. But I'd like to share several things that we are moving forward on. One of the big concerns of our community has been completing the shopping center right up here. We're in the process of putting together a comprehensive plan for the village, which I'll get into on the next point. But part of that plan is having an economical development focus group that will bring in more input, if you will, of ways that we can work to complete the shopping center. We also have looked into other avenues in which to encourage asking properties the owner to complete the shopping center. Avenues that we think we can work together with the developer on, and that'll be a win-win for both. The park, we'll hear some information about the park, and I shared this whenever we were going through the campaign. I never realized how much of a gem the park is to this community. And throughout my exposure to the park, one of the things that I've heard is we need a playground for children. We're moving forward on that. Albeit it may not be at a run, we are moving forward on it. As I said, we're moving forward with the comprehensive plan, and that's going to give us a very clear, defined pathway for the future of Wesley Chapel. That's important. That comes from the residents. We've heard that many times, especially in the past several years, that we need a more clear and defined path. Comprehensive plan will give that to us, and we're moving forward on that. And lastly, just public involvement. I'm very happy that we're getting to a place with Wesley Chapel now, with our village, that residents can feel like they can speak out to us, they can bring concerns to us, or they can take concerns of their own and share those with the agencies that may have some impact. We have a resident that's encouraging DOT to help with the roads. We all know that that's a big need. We also have a resident that's encouraging us to move forward to try to bring about more of an identity in Wesley Chapel through a post office and a zip code. Albeit it's not going to be in a run, but we are moving forward.
So there's a thing to sit on a board. It's called the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and it's a group of municipalities that work for the Charlotte region, which almost runs from, it's a nice long thing, from state line to state line almost. And they have a discretionary budget. And last month we were able to approve a list of projects, which includes the roundabout at 84 and Potter Road. And once that funding gets done and everything else, there's going to be other meetings and other things, and that's where we need community involvement. Whenever you hear that there's going to be a public meeting or an opportunity to hear what anyone is doing in the community, they have to hold these community meetings. Please attend. Please encourage your people, your friends, and everyone to attend, because that's our avenue to hear from you. That's our avenue for DOT, for example, to get your input and to hear what you think and what you like and what you don't like. So please sign up for the Sunshine List if you've not done that. It's on the website. You can link to it so that you can get emails about these things. Check out the website, like the Facebook page, so that you can keep in awareness of what's going on in the area. But I encourage you, please, to participate in these meetings, because the worst thing that can happen is they hold the meetings and they hold these meetings and no one shows up, and then it comes to a vote for council and then everyone shows up when people have lost that opportunity to have input much earlier. So just encourage people to do that.
One thing I want to focus on is the map you guys see right in front of Amanda here. We were approached recently, well, since our last council meeting, about a high-density senior housing project. I want to make you all aware of it. If you look on the map, you'll notice the different colors. Anything you see that's white on the map is unincorporated Union County, and it is not under the control of Wesley Chapel Council, and those are called donut holes. So we might have the entire border, but if there's a white spot in the middle, we have no control over it. And when we heard about this potential senior housing project of high density, at first I thought, okay, they're going to put something else on our borders, and we're not going to be happy with it. But after doing some investigating, we find out that the parcel was dab smack in the middle of Wesley Chapel. And I only bring that up is because when people hear about it, people learn about it, they're going to come in here, stand at the podium and yell at us, and we have no control over it. So please be advised that the potential high-density senior housing project that's coming, if you're not happy with it, if you don't think that's something you want in our community, please voice your opinion. But it needs to be done at the county level, not to Wesley Chapel. We're actually going to be talking about that later tonight, about doing a stern letter or resolution to the county specifically about it. But your voice matters too. So encourage you to reach out and voice your opinion on this issue.
Yeah, so later tonight we are going to talk about what Mike said, a resolution or a letter. And we've also done that about several other high-density communities proposed at our border or in our donor holes. I just want to say if we will all please keep our mayor in our thoughts and prayers if that's your wish. And thank you for being so champion. That'll come for her till she gets back. The first thing we're going to do is talk about additions, deletions, and adoption of our agenda. We do have several things we're going to add tonight. We're going to add a discussion or email request we got for track groups to use the Dogwood Park to practice. We're going to add that after the Parks and Rec Committee report from John Lutke. Mike has been kind enough to do some work on getting us bids to repair council chamber microphones. We're going to talk about that at the very end, right before council comments. We're going to discuss our awesome residents letter to DOT about road repairs on 84 and the possibility of supporting with a letter from council. We're going to talk about that after the planning board report. And we're going to discuss that high density senior housing development after Robin's comprehensive plan presentation. And we're also going to talk about a council response to be included with the public comment period on the 2050 comprehensive visioning process. We're also going to do that after the FCON discussion. We also need to have a closed session with our attorney. So we're going to do that after the discussion of the Parks and Rec items, but before the finance officer's report. And we are going to remove the update of the council rules of procedure tonight. We need a little more work before we get started on that. So if anybody would like to make a motion to adopt this revised agenda?
We have some additional things to add. Just a quick clarification on direct deposit issue. You can add that maybe after item 19, make item 20 would be the two down.
Or should we just talk about it during Cheryl's finance?
We can do that. We can make it part of Cheryl's. And under council comments, I think, although this is other items, so we will put that to the agenda.
Good? Everybody good?
Make a motion to accept the amended agenda as stated.
Second.
All in favor? I would also consider a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor? Is anyone here from Carolina Classics? Okay. All right. So we have been asked to do a proclamation for North Carolina Classics Week. And this agency was founded in 1936 to encourage an interest and appreciation for the language, literature, and culture of the ancient Greeks and Romans. There are 54 chapters of this National Junior Classical League in North Carolina, and that includes 1,800 middle and high school students of Latin, Greek, and the Classics. So we are going to make a proclamation for North Carolina Classics Week that will be held in commemoration of the traditional anniversary of the founding of ancient Rome on April 21st. So this proclamation states that we recognize the relevance of classical culture in relation to its own history, the great interest that many North Carolinians hold for the classics, and the countless benefits that studying classics offer to everyone. So the village will recognize the week of March 29th through April 4th as North Carolina Classic Week.
Do you guys actually speak Latin?
We don't really do spoken Latin in our class, but yes, we study Latin and certainly translate
Veritas.
ancient Latin texts.
Veritas, very good.
And Cheryl, am I allowed to give this to them? Here is your copy of the proclamation.
Thank you so much.
Edward. How can I say that?
How many more like words do you know? I sit here impressed.
Caveat emptor.
And next is our presentation on the WCWA Park by Bill Dieter.
Good evening. My name is Bill Dieter. I'm president of the Weddington Optimist Club. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. What I want to do, or what I will be doing, I will be giving you a brief presentation or a history of Optimist Park. I will then present to you all of the things that the park provides to the residents of Weddington. The value we bring to Wesley Chapel. And then I'm going to stick my hand out and I'm going to ask for financial support. But I'm not just asking for financial support, I'm going to present a value proposition to you that says this is what we bring to Wesley Chapel. And hopefully you will agree that that is important to Wesley Chapel and will support us. We are a nonprofit asset to the town of Wesley Chapel. It's on the screen behind you. Feel free to look the other way. Oh, you got it. Great. Okay. The history of Optimist Park. Technology. I'm an old guy. I'm a little bit slow on this. All right. It started in 1983 with the purchase of 20 acres by the Weddington Optimist Club. There were people that were very forward-thinking in our community. It expanded in 2000 with the purchase of an additional 34 acres by the Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference between the Optimist Club and the WCWAA? Are they the same entity?
They're not the same entity. We both have a common goal of serving youth. The Optimist Club, our motto is Friend of Youth. The Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association obviously serves youth through sports-related activities. The Optimist Club owns 20 acres of Optimist Park. Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association owns 34 acres, and we work together to provide athletic activities for children in the surrounding communities.
Thank you for clarifying the hierarchy there.
Okay. Today the park consists of 9 baseball fields, 9 soccer fields, 2 girls softball fields, 2 multi-purpose fields, and a football field. It's an artificial turf football field, one of only 2 in the county. Parking for 500 cars, concessions, a children's playground, and a half-mile walking trail. The largest private sports park in Union and Mecklenburg County. There's nothing that can compare to it. I'm going to talk about Take On Sports program. It started in 2006 right over here at Optimist Park. It creates opportunities for special needs and children and adults. And I'm going to also talk how that benefits our kids here in Wesley Chapel. It's all volunteer supported. Hard to find volunteers today. Everyone's working, you got kids, the wife works, Dad works, a lot going on. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It's privately funded with no state, county, or municipal support. Let's talk about Take On Sports. When do I get to play? That was the comment made by the child of John and Gina Fisher. It started in 2006, right here at Optimist Park. It serves children and adults with special and intellectual challenges. Today it serves over 280 families in 6 scheduled sports. Those sports are basketball, baseball, football, soccer, bowling, and fitness. It's the only program of its kind in Union County. What it does, it allows our high school kids a chance to volunteer. This program, each of these special needs people is given a buddy that helps them through these programs. We're very blessed here at Wesley Chapel. Our children are not exposed to a lot of this kind of stuff. People that are less fortunate than they are. So it gives them an opportunity to have exposure to that, to work with people, young people or adults less fortunate than them. So that's an asset to the youth in Wesley Chapel. Why support Optimist Park? If I was sitting up there with you, you guys got your hands full now trying to balance a budget and do all the things people are requesting. So why support Optimist Park? Over 600 Wesley Chapel families utilize Optimist Park. That's 600 families. Let's say you got 2 kids in a family. I don't know what it comes out. That could be 1,200 children in the village of Wesley Chapel. The park strengthens the community. I think one of our previous speakers talked about a situation he had, health crisis with his wife, and the community came around and provided support. That's one example. Optimus Park increases property values and tax revenue. I've also heard people say, I moved to Wesley Chapel when my children were young because of the value of Optimus Park. It helps them adjust. It helps them get settled into a new community. It conserves our natural environment. It is a park versus, I heard, high-density housing this afternoon. That's another asset that it brings to the town of Wesley Chapel. It improves your local economy. You've got a pretty good commercial development out there. The more business that comes into those businesses, the more sales taxes comes into the town of Wesley Chapel, which supports Wesley Chapel's activities. It provides scholarship opportunities for residents' children. I'm going to touch on, we all know college is not cheap. This provides an opportunity for children to qualify for scholarships to college, partial scholarships, full scholarships. We actually have a young lady that lives here in Wesley Chapel. She's going to Queens College on a scholarship, Wesley Chapel resident. And probably one of the most important things, it provides a place where children can learn and grow into responsible adults through organized sports. It's about developing youth. Okay, we talked about the park strengthens the community. This is some research that was done by Nicole Franklin at Claremont College. Research suggests that children's participation in organized sports is beneficial to academic achievement. That's really good. But the key thing I want you to take away from this is greater participation in organized sports is also linked to youth development, including development of positive behavioral and social skills that cannot be learned in the classroom. Now, I'm an old guy, all right? I do Facebook, probably some of you do. You've got Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, WeChat, and probably another half dozen more. Our youth today, they're not used to face-to-face interaction. They're losing the ability to develop interpersonal and social skills. And that's what that study says, and that's what Optimus Park will help to provide the youth in Wesley Chapel. I talked about improves the local economy. You probably recognize a lot of these businesses here. They're right out here in your business area. Many of these businesses support Optimus Park directly through some of the athletic teams. And I can tell you Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts don't support directly, but I can tell you they get a lot of business as people come in, thousands of people come in to events held at Optimus Park. The reason I know that is you go through the trash cans and you can see the McDonald's bag, the Chick-fil-A, the Dunkin' Donuts. So it's driving business into the community of Wesley Chapel, which drives sales tax, which supports Wesley Chapel in addition to your tax base. So it helps your community, and it's a plus for Wesley Chapel. I talked about 600 families participate in Wesley Chapel. I've taken one neighborhood in Wesley Chapel. I believe it's Silver Creek. I was driving around trying to find out the name of it, but I'm pretty sure this is it. If you look at this, every one of those red dots is a family that participates through WCWA at Optimus Park. A lot of red dots there. There could be more as children tend to age out. We no longer show them as a red dot. These are families that currently participate in activities at Optimus Park through WCWA. They are embedded within your community. This is one subdivision, but there are 600 of these families in your community. Okay, next slide. I talked about college scholarships. This is an example of some of the kids that have gotten college scholarships at various sports through Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association. I'm sure their parents had a big sigh of relief knowing they were going to get some financial aid getting their child or children through college. You'll see under soccer there, Kaylin McKinney. She goes to Queens College. Kaylin McKinney lives here in Wesley Chapel. She played soccer. She's now going to Queens College. I have a letter here that Kaylin was kind enough to send me. It's a very heartfelt letter. It's a long letter, so I've asked that you can just read it at your leisure after this presentation. But that's one example of, I talked about the value proposition. Another thing the park brings to Wesley Chapel. Now I want to summarize. She's kind of jumped ahead on my slide, but that's okay. I wanted to summarize and basically remind you. We talked about building the community. We didn't talk about it, but part of it is it builds the individual. It exposes our children to those less fortunate, and they learn a giving personality in their life. It increases property values. Higher property values means more taxes, means more revenue for the town, so the town can support the residents' needs. It helps community businesses. We talked about that. That drives more sales tax, which helps the town in their budget. Scholarships opportunities. We talked about that, how it helps people in the community in terms of reducing the cost of getting their children to college. And as important, it's a place for kids to go to learn and grow. Now, after telling you all the benefits this is bringing to the town, I'm going to ask for financial support. $10,000 to $12,000 a year? You got to be kidding me, right? I feel good. No one coughed. No one gasped. No one rolled their eyes. And most importantly, no one fell out of their chair. Because at initial look, that's pretty expensive, right? It's about a little over 1% of the Wesley Chapel budget. 1%. What are the values we are bringing to the town of Wesley Chapel? Is it worth 1%? All right, now here's why I'm glad no one fell out of their chair. Let's go to the next slide. We're talking $1.10 to $1.35 for each Wesley Chapel resident. Is that a good value proposition for all the benefits the park brings to the town? $1.10 to $1.35 a year for town residents. Let's break it down even further. That's somewhere between 9 cents and 11 cents a month. Let's look at it another way. Wesley Chapel is a growing community, like many of the communities in Western Union County. The more the population of Wesley Chapel increases, the lower that $1.10 to $1.35 becomes. Could go to 90 cents to $1. What are we going to do with this money? Annual support will allow capital planning, which is hard to do if you're struggling to determine a budget to plan from. You guys are familiar with this, being on the council. You have to work with budgets every year for the town. It'll be used for upgrades and ongoing park improvements, not operating expenses. Operating expenses are day-to-day, how do we make ends meet? This is for improvements and upgrades to the park. Some of the examples: artificial turf for the baseball fields to improve utilization, artificial turf for softball fields to improve utilization. You get a lot of rain down here in the spring, you can't have practices, you can't hold games. Artificial turf will allow us to better utilize those fields. LED lighting to reduce utility expense. The park probably spends $50,000 a year just for lights. LED lighting can significantly reduce, it'll upgrade the lighting, it will reduce the operating cost, and I like this. You ever been to those basketball games where the lights go red and yellow and green and blue and they're flashing on and off? That's what LED lights can do at Optimus Park. I can visualize sometime in the future, 4th of July celebration, fireworks, lights. Again, it builds community. Expansion of the walking trails. We currently have a 1/4 mile walking trail. There's a plan to expand it to 2 miles. A lot of times mom and dad are dropping the kids off at the park. I really don't have enough time to go back home. Maybe I can run quick, get some quick groceries. More than likely, I'm just going to hang around here till my son or daughter are done with practice. Well, now mom or dad, more than likely it's going to be mom, taking them to the park. She'll have a 2-mile walking trail that she can go out and walk. Get a little exercise while Junior is practicing in sports. Another plus for the Wesley Chapel residents. Driveways and parking lots. We have gravel driveways and parking lots. Ideally, you'd like to get them to be asphalt, a little bit nicer for people that come in. Upgrade the bathrooms. How many of you have been to Optimus Park? So you know we are the Porta-John capital of Union County. We have more Porta-Johns in Optimus Park than probably any place in the county. And I would also throw Mecklenburg County in that. The county will be putting a sewer through Optimus Park. And when that comes, place all those Porta-Johns, which a lot of the moms don't like. I'm a dad, and I don't like them. But eventually we'll get nice bathrooms, flush toilets, clean sinks, and all that. Last but not least, more handicap accessibility. This handicap accessibility, it's not for, we talked about the take-on sports, the handicapped kids that come in for the park. This is good for them, but we're really talking about grandma and grandpa. When they come in to watch their grandchildren, grandson, granddaughter participate in sports. Another positive for residents of Wesley Chapel. So I'm hoping I've presented to you a good value proposition, why the park is of value to the residents of Wesley Chapel, and why you would provide some type of support to that. I'll close. Any questions? Yes, sir.
The scholarships that you've done, is it multiple scholarships to a lot of different kids, or one big scholarship to one person?
No, it's multiple scholarships to a lot of different kids. If you saw that slide back there, I grabbed some from some of the different sports, like right there. Those are different kids those are kids that got softball scholarships, baseball scholarships, soccer, football scholarships, going to different colleges. The park helps these kids if they progress to that ability and they say, hey, listen, I'd really like to play in college. Well, the coach will say, we'll help you. We'll see what we can do.
Is there an average or median amount that the scholarships are normally for?
I really don't know. Some of them would be full scholarships. Some of them would be partial scholarships. There's one young man on there, Kyle Parker, in the Baseball Naval Academy. That's a $400,000 scholarship. I'm sure it does for some of his athletic ability. A lot of it's because he's probably a pretty smart kid. But a lot of it's also due to leadership skills, interpersonal skills. And we talked about how the park develops that in children. I go back through my listing, Snapchat, WeChat, TikTok, on and on and on.
Recently, you guys upgraded a lot some of the ball fields to artificial turf of some sort.
Yep.
That was a big expense, was it not?
It's a huge expense. I want to say probably $400,000 or $500,000. The soccer fields, to get the soccer fields upgraded to artificial turf. If you're driving up and down past the park, every day of the week, rain or shine, you're going to see children out there on those soccer fields. And this is a program that probably started 10 years ago. The Optimus Park WCWA soccer teams are known throughout the state. They are top-notch players, boys and girls. The football field is artificial turf. There's only 2 artificial turfs in the county. One at Optimus Park, one at Monroe High School. State championships, football are sometimes played, depending on where they're played, on artificial turf. We'll have teams come to the park so they can practice on artificial turf. That turf is 10 years old and is going to need to be replaced. That's a $300,000 project to do that. So it's upgrading the fields to support our children, and it does have costs associated with it.
And what is the average parent pay for a child to play soccer or play baseball or play lacrosse? Or
that I really don't know, but there was a gentleman here that he knows.
So if I were to take my daughter there to play soccer for
I don't know about soccer. Baseball is $300. Softball is $235 for a season, and there's other challenge or all-star fees that you come into play. So that's a typical season of spring softball. And every year those are kind of adjusted depending on I mean, that comes with the uniform, hat, belt, things like that. But that's the general package of what you get.
The more we can support the park, I gave a couple examples like LED lighting. I mean, there's a celebratory side of that. There's also a cost reduction side of that. Porta pots, porta johns. I think the park spends close to $30,000 for porta johns. We get sewer through there. That's an expense that goes away. But putting in bathrooms obviously is going to have an initial capital outlay. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that you have a children's playground.
Yes.
Is that open to the general public, and what type of amenities do you have?
The children's program, it's a circular. We have the wood chips, the double hammered, special kind of wood chips you have to put in there. It's got the usual stuff, the rocking horses, what I call monkey bars, merry-go-rounds, a couple big tractor tires with sand and stuff in them for children. And that's part of our list to be upgraded.
And that's open to the public. You don't have to be a member or...
You don't have to be a member. Generally, people that come in and use the park, they're there. You got another kid there, so I'm taking this kid.
I would never venture there if I did not have a job. So I guarantee that. And then the walking trail that you were talking
Walking
about.
trail.
Is generally for the people who are there when their kids are with.
Yes, yes. Right now it's a half mile. We're planning to extend it to a quarter mile. Yes, sir.
How many total families does the park serve?
Families, I'm going to guess around 2,900 families. Like I said, there's 600 here. I think there's 1,400 in Weddington, 700 in Marvin. There's unincorporated Union County. We've actually got some families from Waxhaw, from Indian Trail, from Monroe. But I've been focusing on Western Union County, the three main towns. And by you tack kids onto that, it can be anywhere from 4,500 to 5,000 children.
And does the park have yearly donation to other municipalities such as Weddington?
Yes. Well, I've been talking to all the towns. I talked to Weddington. Wesley Chapel at one point in time made donations to the park. Weddington at one point in time made donations to the park. Marvin, I don't believe, has ever made donations to the park, but I had a meeting with them in their budget workshop, and they seem receptive to making donations. Obviously, they'd like to get their name involved. We have Wesley Chapel Weddington Athletic Association, so we'll be working with them on that because they've got the same type presentation. I presented a couple neighborhoods, and they've got the same look of children embedded in their town that participate in the park. So we're really looking at three of the communities to help participate. Okay?
I know a budget workshop is coming up in
Very near future.
Again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions, a lot of good questions. And I hope you will consider the benefits we bring to your town and hopefully you'll agree to provide some value to the town and to its residents. Thank you very much.
That moves us into the planning board report. John?
Hi, John.
Hello.
Super.
All right, good evening. I'll be going over planning board. We did our last meeting in our agenda for March's meeting. In the last meeting, on February 24th, welcomed our new planning board members. Additionally, Mr. Como was there and talked about the stormwater workshop. So, do you want to talk on behalf of that at all? Or
Dr.
else?
And I went to that. It was very informative. It had to do a lot with, Mecklenburg County and Union County as well. But if they had their druthers, we'd all have gravel roads or gravel driveways and gravel everything because it's more impervious surface. I wasn't really ready to give a report on the event, but it was very well received. I think the thing that jumped out at me more than anything else was not the people that were there or the municipalities that were there, but the people that weren't there, the municipalities that weren't there, and this is a big issue for our community. And this just happened to happen. We had the stormwater discussion immediately after we had that heavy rain last month, where we had 26 or 27 road closures in Union County due to high water. So that was one of the things that we brought up and discussed. So it was a good meeting, but I'm not sure if we came to a consensus on how to resolve some of these issues. Unless everybody wants to pull up their concrete, put in gravel in the streets and in the driveways and everything, plant grass over the roof, which was one of the things we saw in some areas that are very pretty. So I'll talk more as next time more about it.
Good, that's good to hear. So that's what I'm hoping. Is there any takeaways from that you and Dr. Ellis can bring? And do we need to reevaluate our stormwater ordinance? Do we, incorporate any of that into our comprehensive plan? I think it's very timely.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to fix the problems we're having versus trying to make huge changes on the other end. We just fix our problems. I think that would resolve a lot of their issues.
I'm interested did they talk at all about high density versus low density? You would assume high density has more of a stormwater impact.
Right. They talked a lot about what a standard shopping center, like take a Lowe's shopping center, and what that does when you pave the parking lot plus the building, and what used to absorb so much water in that area is now being directed off of that, and how to deal with that. It's a complicated issue. It's not something that you snap your fingers and fix. Right. But it was focused mainly on stormwater. Didn't have anything to do with I tried to steer the conversation to sewer capacity and things like that, but that was not the topic of the conversation. So there's a whole argument there about how to control development based on water and sewer capabilities.
Are there any new resources that we can reference when we look at comprehensive plans or stormwater issues? Or is it the same resource that we've been using? Typically we go to Bonnier Engineers.
Right. There's nothing new that's state of the art or anything. It was very basic for what we already have.
Well, good. So we talked about that. I'm glad Dr. Ellis signed up to go. You might get. It was just the two of you. Just the two of us. Okay. Good. All right. Moving on, the other thing we talked about was we looked at the Cavison entrance sign review. You recall that's the subdivision going in down off Chamwood behind elementary school. So that's not something that you guys will see, as I understand. But we reviewed some of the signs that are going up. Specifically, I asked for the setbacks from the roads, the sight lines as you're leaving the Chamwood. Make sure you can see when you're going down in. We reviewed, made sure they met all of our criteria. So we gave that a unanimous decision to move forward. I think we'll hopefully see that go up soon. We also looked at RA40 versus R40. You've heard us talk about this often, right? And I think we're really moving further with this. We actually had someone from Wesley Chapel show up and talk on behalf of that. We had a really good conversation back and forth with this gentleman and his sons that they actually operate a tree business. And I think they live on like 2.25 acres. So they're saying that they're looking forward to an RA40 district. This would definitely directly apply to the business and the lifestyle that they're trying to live on their property in Wesley Chapel. So it's good to see something we're moving forward with. We actually had somebody that's looking forward to this type of a district. So we're going to continue to make gains on that, and I'll talk about this month as well here in a minute. Tree ordinance updates. So we got some updates. Comprehensive plan updates. So we reorganized and volunteered to help out with different chapters. So we have all goals to meet with Robin as necessary, as long as we're not a quorum. We got other people from the community to help out. I think John Lepke will be helping out. Parks and Rec, we have a couple other people from the community helping out, as well as our planning board. I saw some new faces in here, looks like most of them left, but what I really want to communicate, and I think we need to communicate this, and I would ask you guys to pledge on your opening statements. try and get the message out that we're going to have some community meetings coming up soon on a comprehensive plan. Right, like you were saying, Lori, this is the input we need from the community. So comp plan, if we get as many people to come in and help us give their input, I think it's really going to help drive this. We're going to do a lot of research in the background, but ultimately we need to get verified that information by the public. I think community meeting and the survey they're going to be working on is the only way we have right now to get that involvement. So please try and help communicate that as much as possible. All right, so that was all we had on our meeting in February. Any questions on that?
Sean, when do you think council will have your recommendations on RA 40? I know it's been on your agenda for a while. When do you think we'll see some movement on that?
Yep, so that actually goes into this month's report. So I think we got pretty close. So we dove deep into the whole purpose of RA 40, right? And we're looking at, one of the things we're focusing on right now is what are the setbacks and minimum lot sizes for some of these RA 40, right? So in RA 40 agriculture, you look at some of the uses that are in there. Do some of them need to be a larger minimum size, right? What are some of the setbacks? Do they make sense? So I think we're pretty close to having something final. Our goal is actually to show up with with a written ordinance. The goal again is for us to approve it this month and send it to you guys next month. It's a goal, but I think we're pretty close. That might be able to happen this month. Yes.
You touched on the survey, and you guys have been working at all on questions specific to the survey, and I'm not sure.
We'll talk about that later in the comp plan proposal.
All right.
Short answer is no.
Keep thinking about it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. All right. All right. And then next month, it's really second.
Do you need it?
Sorry, this month. There it is. So we don't really have any new applications to review. We don't have anything coming back to us. So a lot of it's focusing on old business of the RA 40 and R40. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that taking 30 to 40 minutes really. I mean, we're really going to hopefully dot the I's, cross the T's on that 40. So we've got the time to do that here in 2 weeks. And then true ordinance updates, again, moving forward on that. Comprehensive plan updates, moving forward on that as well. That's all we have on our agenda for this month.
John, are you aware of the issue with the high-density housing that's going to be in the middle of Wesley Chapel proposed?
I've heard about that. Is that the one they're rezoned to R4?
It's 115 houses on like 44 acres.
I think I saw that. I checked the zone. I think that was one that was R4, right? So 4,000 square feet.
I would like the planning board to be aware of it, and even if they have a discussion about it, because we're going to be talking later about sending some kind of formal communication to the county about it. So, and I'm not sure, it came out after the last planning board meeting, right?
I emailed it to the planning board after I'd sent it to you guys. Or it might have been in the same email, I'm not 100% sure.
And that's a senior subdivision we're talking about?
Yeah, R40 to R4.
All I can say is, the other thing I can think of from the planning board side is communicate that we had a senior subdivision ordinance, and we've since taken that out of our ordinance because no more further development is in line with our plan going forward. Right? And so maybe that has a little more strength than just a denser subdivision.
Well, I think we've expressed our opinion about it on our borders, but this is going to happen right smack dab in the middle, which is going to be a hard pill to swallow.
May want to remind them that we're already insufficient for the county sheriff's department on patrolling this area, so adding more dense population gets us even further behind that. We just can't afford. I mean, all I can think of exactly. I mean, all I can think about is trying to leverage, all the things that we're trying to fight now. That this potentially quadruples that per acre.
So does it make the county sign up if the county agrees it's not good?
That's all I can, other than saying it doesn't fit with our one house per acre. We don't have the budget to support this. We don't have the infrastructure to support this.
Well, at the sheriff's meeting, we were basically told Well, Wesley Chapel's approved stuff, so now they gotta help pay for this. Well, it's the county now, some of their officials that are
Absolutely.
creating the need for additional coverage.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, we've seen it, right? You would think it wouldn't contribute to schools as much as a standard subdivision. There's a bonus there. Having seniors in our community, there's a bonus there. So there's pros and cons. But of course, from the planning board side, we've already, in council, right? We've already got rid of the senior subdivision specific ordinance for low density.
How much do you have to put there?
Right.
With the 1,615 that's already.
Well, there's that too, right? Yeah. What about vacant home sites? You're right.
And Robin, was there some planning stuff you wanted to add?
Yeah, if I can. Just start, David, to further clarify, the planning board got a draft of RE40 last month, as you know, and we went through it quite a bit. So I'm updating that. Until we get to the planning board, I don't know how many more changes they will want to make. They kind of zeroed in on one thing, and I don't know if they reviewed all of it. So we'll continue to see, but hopefully in the next month or two for that. To follow up on some other things, the specific code case that we had an issue with that we talked about previously, we're optimistic that it will be resolved by the end of the month. So there's that. That's a good sign. In terms of planning, just trying to go over things. Five Stones, just want to remind you guys, they've had their first meeting. It was March 3rd, their first community meeting. These are meetings that they run. They give us a summary of questions and comments. They will have their second meeting on March 19th. The entire purpose of that meeting is just to respond to what they heard the first meeting. So obviously, if there's a new person there, that they can go over things. But the goal is that they look at that and revise based on what the community has said. And then in between there this week, they will be meeting with me to go over comments as well.
Second meeting is when?
March 19th. I think it's a Thursday.
First meeting, Jan and I went to with Lori, correct? Okay, just want to make sure I wasn't seeing things. The other council members tried to do.
Yeah, I would, Shirley was there too, from the planning board alternate. And I really do think it would be great for planning board members to participate in these type of meetings, because you could hear firsthand from the neighbors and their thoughts as well as the responses back.
Okay. One last thing for now, and this isn't something that's going to affect us this year, but the Department of Transportation, the Federal Department of Transportation, announces they used to have a grant program, and now they've renamed it to BUILD, but it's Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. So they call them the BUILD grants. Perfect timing, but the county was approached by another municipality about, hey, there's a way that we could get a stormwater study for the entire county, because stormwater is tied to the roads. And so it's a DOT grant, but we could we use it to do a stormwater study? And so I believe it was the engineer in Indian Trail, talked with the county. The county called some people with DOT and talked to some other engineers, and everyone seems on board with applying for that. So we got a letter. I think it's great. It's actually in line with something I was going to put in our comp plan anyway. But the idea is that we just do a system-wide study of stormwater, where are the choke points, and that gives us identifiable locations that we can attack. Now, it'll be for county, so maybe we only have a couple things and some other areas have larger issues. We don't know yet. But if we do this, the county will put some money toward it. We will have to do a local match for part of the grant. The county will share in that, and we'll ask all the municipalities to also have a share in that. I believe what we're thinking now is our share would be around $7,500, maybe up to $10,000. But given that we're a smaller municipality, that's what we're thinking. Now, this wouldn't affect us this next fiscal year, but probably the following one. So we won't have to put it in the budget that we're coming up with. But it's something to think about in the future year. The other good thing is the timing of it. We can put it in our comp plan as one of our initiatives and then actually have something earmarked and be able to accomplish something fairly quick after getting a comprehensive plan adopted. Again, it highlights issues that we have. We already know where some of them are, but it also allows engineers to look at them and start coming up with, potential.
And it's county-wide, irregardless of municipal lines.
Exactly.
So you have to look at it.
It's
and
cumulative.
say that, hey, yes, this is unincorporated because it's a big problem in Wesley Chapel and vice versa.
Well,
So
and
you
because
can see it
yes.
holistically, right?
And because let's face it, a lot of what you guys have to deal with are complaints about roads and complaints about stormwater, but we don't own the roads, and so therefore we have no say in the stormwater affecting those roads either, but we can partner into a study and help provide some money toward this overall grant that the county gets that would allow us to look at, okay, what is DOT doing? What is not happening? Where do we need to put some of this stuff? So it does fall in line. I love the idea. I told them I love the idea, but I figured I'd bring it to you guys first. They just want to know if the municipalities are in support of this at this point so that they can continue investigating whether it's a good option or not to move forward with.
I think it sounds great. I think it's definitely fits right in with the comprehensive plan, like you mentioned, something we need. I just drive around here and I'm amazed at the amount of stormwater problems we have now, especially how much worse it's gotten in the last couple of years. And it just feels like how did this happen? How we get this into it, and I know it gets into the impermeable surface, and everybody comes up, oh, we have a retaining pond, and it's going to leak out the same rate as everything else. Yeah, John's shaking his head. I don't believe it either. And I just think having a really solid study would really be helpful.
Yeah, I did run this by our town engineer as well, and she got excited.
I gotta say, that's one thing that's always rubbed me wrong, was our stormwater ordinance just says don't make it any worse than it already is. At your local specific site. You don't look at anything else around it, but that's our ordinance, right? And that's what we review when subdivisions come in. We never look on, let's make it better than it is now, which would fix the problem. Or how's it, comprised of more properties around, if this is the tool to do that, right?
And it may lead into that. So I've had conversations with our engineer about this as well. We do have probably the strictest stormwater requirements in the county at the moment, believe it or not, because of what we detain or require. But in order to look cumulatively, we have to set aside basins and have different levels for different basins, and that's something we haven't done yet. And so that would require pretty much a new structure to that part of the ordinance, and then having some studies to back a lot of this up. And if that's what this, if we get the build grant and an outcome is that, yes, we need to start looking at that, then we already have that built-in partnership for regional cooperation to allow for that, because basins don't follow political boundaries. So, and we're all dealing with the same issue. I guess that's something very strong that has come out of the county's comp plan municipal group, as well as the quarterly municipal planning meetings that we have, is that everyone is dealing with this issue, and everyone's struggling to deal with this issue. And we're all trying, but it's hard, especially for the municipalities, because we have such a small section.
And if anybody's asking you, Robin's report said that Shamwood will probably take another month or two to open. So, no detours. All right. That was, Mike wanted to add an agenda item about a resident, Sandra Burke, wrote a letter about the pothole issues here on 84. Mike?
Oh yeah, we had a very nicely worded letter from Mrs. Burke to the DOT, and I think we should support that with a follow-up letter saying the same thing. I'm not sure either one of the letters will allow the Department of Transportation to repave that whole section of the road. We're talking about just a couple hundred feet of this really bumpy road when you drive down there. But I think DOT gets a letter from a resident, they go, yeah, we get 1,000 of these a day. DOT gets one from the municipality, maybe they'll pay a little bit more attention to it. And I think it goes to show that we support our residents' concerns. Because we all drive down that road, we all hit those same bumps.
Robin, what do you think?
If you guys want to write a letter, that I think that's fine, and then I can also reach out to them and see.
So, doesn't have to be a long letter, but it'll be sternly written or anything else, just that we support that there's a problem with this intersection that should be looked at and addressed. And I think we could all probably have one or two little intersections or problem areas that could be added to that equation. But, it just seems to be, I see the truck out there all the time just pouring down some tar, putting a little gravel on top of it, and then driving away, which is how they repair some of those potholes. And really what needs to happen is they just need to pave over that whole section and fix the problem permanently.
So from a council standpoint, what do we need to do in order to implement the letter?
Agree, or you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we write the letter, resolution, letter, whatever it takes to support Dr. Burke's letter, as well as fix the problem.
Yeah, second that.
Who's going to write it?
Okay.
I don't think it has to be very detailed.
Well, we also, there's also the space on the website where people can report potholes and stuff. Should we be encouraging residents to just flood that thing? Like every day, I drove over a pothole. Next day, I drove over a pothole. Next day, I drove over until.
Capture the GPS board and say she tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The letter might be more helpful only because those reports are great, but that gets them out there to fill it with gravel.
Could we, Cheryl, could you make a note though that we ask Deb to maybe post it on the Facebook page again, that people can complain on the DOT website?
Mm-hmm.
Can we ask her to do that? That way that public way is out there?
I can put it on our sunshine list also.
Both.
I've had really good results from them doing things, and I have a hunch that this is probably a higher dollar item, and that's why you're not getting results.
Well, we're out of the winter months, and we can now do things like to repair roads that we couldn't do in
Maybe.
January.
True.
But,
Yep, we're having monsoon season.
Squeaky heel gets the grease.
Could we task Amy to draft something supporting it, since we have an admin now, and then we could review it and.
I don't think we need to wait that long. I would just say have her do it, and Amanda, if you want to approve it before it officially goes out, that's fine with me. And I see David Shakin said that too. So
maybe Amy can work, and she can ask Sharon Robin if she has a question, and draft a letter supporting that.
I haven't even seen the letter from Sandra Burke myself.
Oh, you know, it's you.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Yes, sir.
So maybe in that letter suggesting you can ask who's the point person at DOT to address this, so get contact info, because resident won't get an answer to that, right? So it's just going to go to some department. But perhaps what you guys do is, all right, this is the person, this is the contact. You can update us on the status of fixing those every month or what have you. At least that way you got someone to talk to, as opposed to waiting for an answer.
And asking for accountability.
Exactly.
Update.
yeah, I think we can ask you to add that to her. Just find out a point person and draft the letter. And I'm okay with Amanda pencil looking at when it's done.
The person who runs in the state is Todd Johnson.
Yeah.
He's our DOT voice.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. All right, so that moves us on to the Parks and Rec Committee report.
John, I don't know if you were here, but the kids were here. That was the thing. They all loved everything that they saw. They really liked. And they really liked the little hockey puck that is.
So I'm going to leave the best to the last and give you an update first on the other things we covered at our last meeting. We had a first look at the budget for 2021. We've got a few tweaks to make to it, not a lot of changes. So we're going to be able to meet your end of March deadline for getting this to Cheryl without too many problems. And it looks like the budget for the next fiscal year may even be less than the budget for this fiscal year. So that's the good news. We took a look again at the draft of the sponsorship policy we've been working on. A couple of members wanted to take another look before we pass it on to you guys and just make sure a new thing we're going to propose to you guys is within the scope of the policy. So we've got that again on the agenda next month to do the final review and then pass the sponsorship policy to you guys for review.
John,
Yeah.
have we seen any draft of the sponsorship policy yet?
This council probably not.
Previous council looked at it, but
it was requested of us by the previous council, so we've been mulling it over, changing it, and we're getting close.
There's a currently approved policy, and they're looking at changes. So there is one that exists.
And kind of related to the sponsorship policy and the budget is something we want to propose to you guys, an idea. In previous budgets, if you're familiar with the park, on the north bank, the trail, there's a big mulch bank, follows the whole north side of the pond trail. In the past, we've proposed money to do some beautification for that. And numerous times it's been said, we ain't got the money to do it. So we've come up with an idea that would be an alternate to the village paying for it. And it's a kind of remembrance walk where we would offer residents the opportunity. Many people come here from a different place and they don't have a graveside to go to remember somebody on a special occasion and stuff. So we thought maybe we could get residents to make a donation. We'll do the landscape plan, and then they can make a donation and buy a tree to beautify that north bank. And the consensus was, instead of littering the entire bank with individual plaques, we'd have one plaque at either end of that whole walk that say, these trees were planted in loving memory of, and then people can add little brass plaques to the names. So we just have a sign at each end of the Remembrance Walk. And in that way, we don't come to you guys, we don't put that beautification project in the budget. Of course, we won't be able to do it all at once, and we may do it in phases. If we get 10 people stepping up one year, we do 10 a quarter, or however many we got. And that way we beautify that whole area with trees that bloom at different times of the year, or rhododendrons, and plants that flower at different times of the year, so it's all beautiful along there, and make it a remembrance walk. So we wanted to present that to you guys, see if you guys agree with the concept, and if so, we'll then start drafting up the landscaping plan, what the fee would be for such a donation, kind of coming up with a plan for what the plaque would be.
So I've seen fundraisers for various things, where they say for this dollar amount buys X, and this dollar amount buys X. So you might buy an azalea or a rhododendron or a tree or a rock, whatever it is that you would want. Is that what you guys are thinking?
Right.
Kind of like a shopping
Yes.
list. So not everybody has to give the same amount.
Right. So we make a landscaping plan. We don't want people willy-nilly planting anything. So we want to have an overall landscaping plan.
We need 10 trees.
We need 10 white dogwoods. We need 16 cherry blossoms. Here's the price.
Yeah.
We want a bed of daffodils. Here's the price.
So people just write the check for $100 or whatever that buys is what you do. Once you've reached your 16 cherry trees, you're not a cherry tree.
Right, so it's a limited time opportunity, and we'd emphasise that to people on first come, first served basis. And we'd like to just do one, either some kind of monument rock or one plaque where we can add names to it as new donations come along. Because we'll count how many total things we want and make room. So if there's 200 donations, we'll make room for 200 little brass plaques. So if you guys are okay with that, we'll then take it to the next level. If you're okay with the concept, we'll take it to the next level, document what the policy will be, work on the landscaping plan. But we didn't want to do that until you guys said you could do that.
Could it also include donations for park bench or donations for anything other than flowers?
We can include anything you guys want.
Because I remember there was interest 3 or 4 years ago about donation of a park bench in remembrance of one of our residents in our neighborhood.
I like the idea of people being able to support the park in a way that's meaningful for them. I don't know how much will be just in remembrance, but people that might just want to support the effort, even without a name on a plaque, to say, yes, I think it's a great concept, I want to support it. So I think it's a great way to get some community involved.
And in the sponsorship policies, we've got other ways That was specific for the Remembrance Walk. We've got other things in the sponsorship policy where people can come up with donations to the park, sponsor specific items. So we got.
I think it should be a holistic thing. You want it to look like it's comprehensive in what we're trying to do for the park. So if you would like to remember a loved one, you can donate this way. If you would like to help build, make it a very good cohesive message that holds together. I think that would be good.
I think you'll see a lot of that in the sponsorship policy when you guys get it. We've tried to think of all possibilities and cover it somehow in a comprehensive policy.
We did something similar for the Humane Society where people would do remembrance of my dog, and they bought a brick and then we made a patio out of those bricks. So anytime they come to the Humane Society, they see their brick out there.
Right. So it's just everybody nodding their head enough for us to go ahead and move down that path.
Thanks for everything.
Well, even if it's a bad idea.
All right. One other thing we talked about with the events upcoming. Today, Mike and I and Amy met with Southwood Church. April 11, the Easter extravaganza. It's all in play. It's all looking good. We've got no major concerns.
10,000 Easter eggs.
Yeah. 10. And have you guys been to one of the Easter events yet? It's amazing. They put these 10,000 eggs out, and we have a caution barrier. And Mike goes 3, 2, 1. The barrier drops, and this crowd of kids runs on the field. And the field goes from multicolour to green grass. I mean, like a huge wave. It's amazing to watch. So that's all in play. They're going to handle all the kids' stuff. We discussed we'll handle all the paperwork, permit end of thing. So we have sufficient money in the budget to cover what we need to cover.
Southport's going to provide the bounce house, the face painting, the scavenger hunt, the photo booth with the bunny,
candy cotton popcorn.
They also we're going to try to get
Games.
Chick-fil-A cow to come, and
we'll do the paperwork side of it for the permits, the sign permit. Modify. We're going to use the existing banners over and just Velcro a new date over the top, so we don't have to spend money on banners.
The other thing that John and I came up with, Southport people agreed with this as well. We used to make these little half-page flyers and we'd stuff them in everybody's mailbox and subdivisions, and we realized that 99% of people weren't coming based on those flyers. The banners in front on the road, sure, they'd see that and they know the event's happening. But posters in businesses and flyers in mailboxes, we decided not to do any kind of print media.
At an event, we surveyed people how they heard about the event, and it wasn't through the flyers and it wasn't through the posters. We've been spending money to print them.
A lot of expense and a lot of labor to stuff mailboxes with flyers. And
a lot of volunteers needed to get all those flyers in the mail.
Not a good church.
Social media is probably.
We're going to focus on social media. I'm going to engage Deb to help us out, get the word out. We'll use the Sunshine List. Amy's fully engaged. She jumped in the deep end. She's been great with Robin and Michelle's guidance. She's helping us with all the paperwork, so that's all going well.
And we're going to be saving money from the DJ. We're not going to do DJ. We're going to let Southport bring over their own sound equipment like they did I think, in the previous year.
So we will do the nature guy because that's really popular with all the kids. The guy brings out the owls and the snakes, so we're going to do that. We'll have the expense of the deputies, extra porta johns, and the nature guide. So we'll be below budget on that one. We've also started working on the May Memorial Day event. I've got a commitment from the highest rated veterans charity in the country. It's called Semper Fi, but they don't only do marine stuff, they support all wounded warrior families. The maximum amount of money that goes to them ends with people who need the money. What we're thinking of doing, and we're proposing, I'm looking for your okay to do it, in lieu of a registration fee to participate in the car show, we're going to ask people to make a donation to the veterans cause. So last time we didn't charge people a registration fee for the car show. Some people were surprised that we didn't charge them. So we discussed how we do that, and the idea is We'll just have them directly make a donation to Semper Fi. Hopefully in the form of a cheque with their registration. I check with Cheryl. If we collect the cheques, if they bring the registration here, made out to Semper Fi, we'll just hand them an envelope full of cheques. If somebody shows up on the day and wants to make a cash donation as a registration fee, Semper Fi will have somebody there to take the money, so the village is not involved with that money. The revenue that will come from the beverage sales we're doing with Rotary, I tried to get Rotary to make their half of the profit donation to the Veterans Cause. They said they can't do that, they can only raise funds for their scholarship thing. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So our half of the profit will take, basically 25% of the profit goes to offset the cost of the event, and 25% of the profit from the beer sales will go to the Veterans Cause, and then the Rotary's 50% will go to the scholarship fund. So, and then we're hoping people want to make other donations to the Veterans Cause. I got a commitment at Ballantyne School of Music to give us 2 hours of free entertainment. Again, like they did at the Christmas event, those kids were great. These are 14, 15, 16, 18-year-old kids playing music, so we've got 2 hours there where we will not have to pay for entertainment. And then the additional 3 hours we'll be paying for performers to perform at the event. We got the commitment of the fire department to bring the fire truck out. We got the commitment of Union County EMS to bring an ambulance. Brad is going to follow up with Sheriff Cathy to see if we can bring a SWAT kind of vehicle. And I'm chasing the Army National Guard to bring a tank and maybe some helicopters or stuff like that to fly over. So we'll see how that goes. Sorry?
Better not mess up that sprinkler.
Related to the events, as we've had experience with events this year, we've noticed a couple improvements are needed on the sound system. When we had the choir perform, the microphones we have are not suitable for a choir. Southbrook brought some of their own over, but they were not very good either, and they weren't capturing. If you were down in the front of the choir, it sounded great. If you were up at the top, the microphones were not capturing the entire choir. So we'd like to propose that we move some money we have. We've got a budget line called Sound System Services and Fees. The budget is $3,350. We've only spent $357 of it this year, and unlikely to spend any of that. I'd like to move, if you guys will approve it, around $2,200 from that to capital outlay for the music system, and that would be for the following. It would be for 4 microphones that are designed to capture a choir, or if we ever had an orchestra, a string orchestra kind of thing, it would also capture an orchestra. They are $179 each without tax. So we need 4 of them to cover a decent-sized choir or a small orchestra. And then the other shortcoming we identified, we only have 2 monitors. And when musicians are playing, the PA system is pushing sound out to the audience, but the people behind the speakers who are making the music can't hear what's going out. So you have on the floor in front of the monitors. We only have 2. So if you've got a 4-piece band, the 2 people up front can hear what's being pushed out, but the guys in the back can't hear what's being played, and that makes it difficult for them to adjust the volumes on their instruments and stuff. So I'd also like us to buy 2 additional monitors. They're $700 a piece. So that $2,200 would cover fixing the shortcomings we've identified from events we've had so far. So I probably need a motion to move $2,200. That's the list price. We may get a discount if we try and negotiate with them, but the list price would end up around $2,200. So the motion will be to move $2,200 from sound system services and fees to the sound system capital outlay to buy those items.
John, when do you need this by?
I was going to do it this year before the end of June, before we...
Is this something we have to vote on today?
No.
Okay. Why don't we table this and bring it up again next month? Because this is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Fine. All right, now to the big item. The playground. So at last council meeting, we had these proposals for the playground, and we had differences in the surface. Some bid a fence, some didn't bid a fence. So the instruction was go and rebid it, where they all bid the rubber surface and they all bid a fence. So the specification was modified to call for the rubber surface. And if you haven't looked at it already, this is what it looks like. We have a colour palette we can choose from any of these. We're not even talking about colours yet. We first want to decide which contractor we're going with, and then we'll have a whole meeting about colour scheme for the surface and the equipment. This layer underneath, the spongy layer, is the attenuation layer. That'll actually be 4 or 8 inches deep, depending on the height of the equipment. And the surface on the top is always the same. It's permeable, so the water goes through it. You don't have to worry about additional runoff. So they all bid basically the same stuff. I think we got samples from the same supplier. So now we got bids in that have differences in equipment, because we gave them, as the experts in play equipment, the scope to propose whatever they thought would be the best play equipment for the age groups we specified. So we got 5 bids, I think, from 4 vendors, and we narrowed it down, using the guidelines, make it something we're going to be proud of, do it right the first time. We followed that guideline, and we ended up torn between these 2. Both nice parks. Now, I'll give you a handout in a minute. There's a lot of similarities between these 2. They both have a large play set for each play group, for the younger play group and the older play group. They both have a swing set that's almost identical. 2 swings for regular sized kids and 2 swings for little toddlers. However, there's a significant difference in the price. So one is, on the surface of it, you would say this is the better deal because it's just shy of 133. This one is just shy of 141. However, in addition to the 8,000 difference in price, another difference is this piece of equipment, a carousel. Now, between the 2, that's the only group play equipment we have. All the rest is for individual play. Using a slide, you do it on your own. Climbing the stairs, you're doing it. This is a group play piece. So we tried to look at an apples-to-apples comparison to this. Unfortunately, they itemize the cost of everything. So if we take out the cost of the carousel and the 530 square foot of surface that goes underneath the carousel, this is actually a better deal than that deal. So it's better by 3,600, yeah. This one would be 132,945. This one without the carousel would be 129,289. So if you want to do apples to apples comparison, I'll give you the numbers. This actually ends up a better deal if we want to sacrifice the only piece of group play equipment we have. We don't want to do that. We really think that group play equipment would be a great thing for kids to have. So it would only be dropping that out is going to be a difference of $3,655. So we think leave it in and go with this one. And if you don't want to go for that group play equipment, this is still the lowest bidder overall when you consider dropping that. Now the good thing about rebidding it, and I was very frustrated, but the good thing you've done when you rebid it. This bidder, bidding exactly the same thing this time around, came in $4,987 lower than he did the first time around. So forcing the rebid brought this guy down close to another $5,000. I'll pass these out because I want to talk about where the money would come from. The comparison I just talked about, all the numbers are on here. The potential sources of funding, we have the fees in lieu line, which can only be used for this kind of thing. We currently have just shy of 123 in there. Last month I talked about if we're going to do the playground, we probably want to hold off doing the cameras until we've got the playground in, because we'd want to put a camera there as well. Which means it would not spend that $20,000 we have in for cameras this year if we're doing the playground. In addition to that, we've got 10,700 close to left over in the barricade budget that's unspent this year. We've got money for the retaining wall not spent, and we've got general landscaping. I don't want to use all of that, but if we had to, you can see that there's about 165 available. What we'd suggest we do, Cheryl said, since the fees in lieu can only be used for park kind of stuff, we go there first. So we go to that first, move the cameras, which we wouldn't be able to do this year anyway, from cameras to the playground. Now I've got in there moving the available barricade to contingency. In addition to the cost of the playground, we're going to need a contingency budget for that. We don't know what's in the ground till we start digging. And so we're going to need to have some money available should we start digging and we hit a rock and we have to bring in a jackhammer for, because that is not considered as a contract. You can't ask the contractor to quote for that because he doesn't know what's in the ground. We don't anticipate having to spend that money, but you never know. And I want to make sure we have a contingency available should that occur. So that we don't have to come back to you and say, hey, I had to stop the project because I need another $1,000 to move the rock. The other thing that might be useful, if we want to push the fence out a little bit so we've got a little more space around the playground area to put benches or a picnic table, we can do that using the money in the contingency. But because we push the fence out, we got more linear feet, we're going to have to spend a few more dollars on the fence. So what we're suggesting is that, and it was a unanimous decision, we're suggesting we go for the option with the group play equipment. And we take the money from the fees in lieu, move the cameras to the playground this year, and move the barricade money to the contingency in case we hit something unexpected once we start digging.
John, question. When you redid the calculations for keeping the carousel in versus taking the carousel out, did you confirm those numbers with Carolina Recreation?
No. So they're all detailed in their proposal. Mm-hmm. So they give us a quote on the carousel piece of equipment. It's in there. It's already in their proposal, $5,313. They itemize the rubber surface area, and they quantify the area under the carousel as 530 square feet. So it's a simple arithmetic. The 530 square feet is $6,009. And then there's going to be some reduced cost in the carousel installation. It wasn't important to the consideration, so I just made it $1. We'd save on installation. I suspect it's probably a bit more than that. I just did it for the purpose of comparing directly apples to apples, so you can see that one proposal on an apples to apples basis is actually less expensive. All the detail is in, that I use here is all in these documents.
I think one of the first questions we asked is, we haven't seen the color suggestion on the color choices for the equipment, for the poured-in-place rubber, or for any of that.
We asked all the vendors to provide a palette, which they did. I asked the committee not to get bogged down at this point on colour selection. It doesn't affect the price, and it doesn't affect your decision.
My question to the other council members is, do you want to see the final rendering with the color selection and all that before we move forward on this, or are you happy with just rubber stamping this and giving John the green light to do this without seeing the colors?
Once we decide on which contractor, the next meeting we'll have is with that contractor, with the colour palettes. You're all welcome to come, the public's welcome to come and give us input on colour selection. We can change the theme of anything. So I didn't want to get bogged down in the discussion about, well, I prefer that blue to this blue, because it started and people were like, well, I don't really like that green, I really like that green. But I didn't want to bog down the whole project in that discussion. Once we decide on a contractor, then we'll get into that detailed discussion and we'll hash it out. And you guys are all welcome to come and have input, or if you know anybody who would like to have input, we'd love to have some input. Because, you know, it's really a matter of opinion, this colour selection. I don't really care what colour it is, because I just want to see the playground in there. I'd prefer not to see primary colours, because it's not in sync with the park. I'd rather see what we asked them to do, these natural colours. But to me, that whole discussion on colour comes after we've selected the contract.
And what's the process, John? Say we approve it to move forward at this point tonight. At what point do you need to make the decision on the colors?
At our next Parks and Rec meeting, the vendor would come with the samples again. We would discuss, the hunter green versus the tan versus the blue, which we've seen in most of these proposals. And my question is, once that's been done, do we need to come back and say, here's the final rendering? It shows the equipment, it shows the colors, it shows the layout, and the fencing. Or are we just going to say, we're going to approve the budget and let John work out the details?
Not me. The committee.
Oh, the committee.
Yeah, I'm on the committee too. One of the things I brought up is I wanted it to match the logo of the town of Wesley Chapel, so I was pulling the colors off of there that I was suggesting. So if we really wanted to get into colors, I just kept saying we use a light green and a light blue on there, so it might be.
We've got the colours in the Wesley Chapel logo thing on the palette, so
just so it's very connected to what our symbol is.
My concern with just saying Parks and Rec make your decision and go with it is then if it's something that's not liked by the community, that's maybe the Parks and Rec's big after all. Whereas if it's council saying this is what our approval is for the village, is that more appropriate? That's not what
we can blast out to the sunshine list. Please come and tell us. Come attend the meeting, invite the public to come and give us their input. We'd really love input from our citizens. So.
Again, based on the assumption that we move forward tonight, what's your timeline? When do you expect the equipment to be installed and ready?
My target is the May 25th Memorial Day event. We have a ribbon cutting.
That quick.
The construction times and delivery times are within that time frame. If you guys make a decision quickly, we can get it done by May 25th. If we delay another month, we're not going to hit May 25th. And I would like to schedule a groundbreaking with you guys, get the press out, get the gold shovels out, have you guys come to a groundbreaking thing, and then at the May 25th Memorial Day event, have a ribbon cutting to officially open the playground like we did with the amphitheatre. So I think it's a good opportunity to show the community the progress we're making.
So the next step, if we were to move forward tonight, would be to have a meeting to determine some of the
Next step would be let the contractor know, then working with Cheryl and getting George's input, draw up the contract. The contractor say just send us a purchase order, but we want more than that in there. So we draw up a contract, get Cheryl to put in all the statutory requirements in the contract like we did for the amphitheatre. Hopefully use language George has already seen so we don't have to change much. So it would be drafting the contract, executing the contract with the selected vendor, and then get them at the next Parks and Rec meeting to select colours, do the layout of the ground thing, decide what colour equipment we want, what colour ground
Would
we
that
want.
be a joint planning board and council meeting? Evening, Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec council meeting? Could that be a joint, that meeting with the determination be a joint Parks and Rec council meeting?
Absolutely. All council comes to me, or I'll do a special meeting just with council and the Parks and Rec committee with the vendor to hash out the details.
Yeah, that would prevent the delays that we're just kicking the can until next month.
Wow.
So our next meeting is, do you know the date, show? The last Thursday of this month? I'd like us to let the contractor know before then so he can start lining up the resources he needs for the construction and doing site surveys and permits and that kind of stuff.
Last Thursday of March is the 26th.
So, and then leave the colour selection until the March 26th meeting.
Because the kids get out of school in the beginning of June. So it'd be great if it could get done before the kids get out of school.
You know, after looking at the things, and I really do appreciate you going through that, because I know you weren't happy about that. And
Hey, you saved us at least $5,000.
But it's true. And it was nice to see some of the alternatives and everything, and a couple of things that, you know, as Mike and I were looking at the pictures and talking and everything, it's like, I like the one that was like rectangular, because it, with like, in my head, poured in place rubber with the fence right to the edge, with room for the benches and chairs, or to add other small pieces for the playground in the future.
Looking at
don't have.
just a word of caution on looking at the pictures. These are architectural renditions.
Well, I'm just talking this shape versus that kind of shape. That's all.
They're not precise on exactly how it's going to be.
But that's kind of what my head was like, don't just build it so it's condensed as it needs to be, but to give ourselves that place that we can have some expandability in the future, because that where places the bigger part of the purchase.
We can put the fence. We got a lot of space in the location, so we can push the fence out as far as you guys like. You know, to create more space. It just means a few more linear feet of fence, which is not the most expensive part of the whole thing. You know, the rubber surface is the expensive part.
Yeah, they try to leave the footprint as small as possible between the equipment, because the poured-in-place rubber is one of the biggest costs.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm also just thinking about the ongoing maintenance of it. If there's different surfaces around it, the accessibility, or kids on and off of the surface.
The one concern that was raised about remember when we were considering part rubber, part wood chip, is you end up getting all the wood chips on the rubber, and it becomes a maintenance issue. Somebody's got to go in with a blower, because the kids are going to throw all the wood chips on. So if you have a border around it of wood chips, just expect that the kids are going to be throwing wood chips.
Which is why I'm thinking larger rubber fence, and then.
But then you start.
But it's that versus the ongoing maintenance and everything. I'm just throwing it out there.
The rubber is the real expensive piece. That's why we've ended up where we are. But as you can see, compared to wood chips, this is so much better choice.
John, I think for the amount of money we're spending, I like the idea of either a special meeting or a joint meeting, so that we can all get together and work out the details. But I think once we have chosen officially a vendor, that they need to come back with to that meeting with a more detailed rendering.
No, they have to. For the permitting process, we're going to have detailed engineering drawings and all kinds of stuff. But they're not going to go to all that work till they know they've got the job.
And you feel like they'll have that available by the 26th?
I can ask them to have it available by the 26th.
Just make a condition of their bid.
You need to show up on the 26th with all the engineering drawings if you want the job. You want the job?
So we've been talking about with carousel, without carousel. We've been talking about $141,000 versus if they take the carousel out, it's
$129,289 from the carousel guy and $132,944 from the other person.
I'm confused. When we said we took the carousel out and bring the bid down like $6,000? $3,000.
No, it would bring it down more than that. The carousel equipment itself is $5,313. That's just the piece of equipment. The 530 square feet of rubber surface underneath the carousel is $6,009. That's all in these documents.
So we're reducing it
I
by
don't-
1,100
Yeah.
and we take that out.
Right.
So I guess the first question is, based on the price, do we want to keep that portion of the playground in or not? And then that will affect the total price, and then we decide we go from there. Not seeing any responses from anybody.
I like keeping it in. I'll just be the first to say, I like keeping it in. I like the idea that we're gonna have a playground, we're gonna have designated areas. Community play is something that kids love to do. They will be community play on any surface you have. And I just think it does give them something a little bit different.
The other thing we'd like to try and work in, at one point when we were getting citizen feedback on which direction we should go on the playground, we talked about the idea of a toddler village with roads and these little Tykes push cars. We could get some roadways drawn into the rubber surface that look like roads. And then since we got a fence around it, we could get somebody to donate, or we could buy a few little Tykes cars, and we could put those in, and the kids could go around the roads on the little Tyke cars.
Has anybody checked references on the vendors?
No, not yet. Once we know which vendor we're going with, we'll be asking you or Amy to get onto the references.
The other thing we should probably be doing, and we ran into this before, was the county needs to approve it for accessibility for ADA and get their
It
blessing.
was a requirement of the spec was it had to be ADA compliant, and they've all said in their bids it's ADA compliant. They've all been out to take measurements. We have, as you walk down to where the compass is, the roundabout and the walking trail, we've got a cutout there. They measured the grades from the cutout to the entrance to the playground so that walkway is going to be ADA compliant up to the playground. And of course the surface is going to be ADA compliant.
But I mean, also the play equipment. It just, if you get the county to give their okay, then you don't have a problem later on.
Yeah, that they require a building
There's
review.
a permitting process they'll have to follow, they know that.
John, who's responsible for the grade? Is that the contractor?
Turnkey. It's like, here's a contract, call us when it's finished so we can cut the roof.
With the exception of anything possibly below dirt that would cause a problem, like rock.
Yeah, it's unknown. That's why we need a contingency in there if they hit anything. They're only going down maybe 12 inches, so even if they hit a giant rock, maybe they can just jackhammer the top off it.
Similar to what we did in the parking lot, when we ran into a boulder about the size of my SUV, which we could not move. So we just jackhammered off the top 3 feet of it in the parking lot, right over top.
All those big quartz rocks you see in the park, they all came out of where the parking lot is now.
Yeah.
And that was all in a contingency. We had a contingency for that. And when they were doing that, I had to go out because it was per yard. I had to measure rocks and then agree to how many yards they were removing.
So John, how much are we going to put in for contingency? 10%?
No, I'd say the $10,000 we basically got left from the barricades and hope that we don't spend any of it.
So you're talking $141,000 for the equipment plus a $10,000, $151,000. All in turnkey, provided there are no.
Hopefully it's 141 turnkey or slightly less than that, and then the 10 is there in case we need it for unexpected things once we start.
And Parks and Rec feels certain enough to keep the carousel in?
That was unanimous. We all thought the group play thing was such an important feature that nobody else had that we really liked.
Anybody else?
And where does everybody stand on leaving this? Do you want to see the final plan before we sign the contract? Do you want to leave things like color selection up to Parks and Rec?
No, I thought we already agreed on a
Joint meeting to
Joint meeting, okay, so we'll do it that way. All right.
And last and most importantly, there's going to be no additional cost that you're asking for from us. You're moving monies within your budget to cover that.
The parks budget will not increase, but we will be foregoing some things.
The cameras. So we've already got the barricades we budgeted. We've got 10,678 left in that budget line. That'll go to the contingency, and hopefully we don't spend it. We don't know until we get going.
That brings us up to 132 right there.
Right. And then the cameras, we wouldn't be installing until we put the playground in anyway, so we wouldn't spend that money this year. So we're saying, okay, let's take that camera money in the budget, move that towards the playground. We will, in the budget, put money back in next year for the cameras, because once we got the playground in, we then want to do the cameras. Maybe even more cameras. So you're going to see a larger budget for the cameras next year, because all the quotes we got most of the quotes we got were over 20 grand for the cameras anyway. We're going to add cameras to the playground, so you're going to see a slightly larger number for cameras next year than was in the budget this year.
Yeah, originally it was driveway, parking lot, and amphitheater being covered by the cameras. Now that we're adding another amenity to the park, we have to add another camera to the park. At least one. I don't know.
Maybe two different angles. We don't know until we talk to the camera people.
Also in the budget, I want you to be clear that the fee in lieu is not, it's like a fund balance. It's not budgeted yet, so we would be increasing our budget of park and rec expense and appropriating that money, the fees in lieu. So the entire amount, the whole 153, well, not the whole 153, the whole 122 from fee in lieu will be an increase to the budget. And please take out your pennies.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go moving forward with this project, and based on the Parks and Rec recommendation, go with Carolina Recreation with the carousel at just under $141,000, with the understanding that we're going to have a joint meeting to finalize things like color selection, shape, general layout at or before the next Parks and Rec meeting. Everybody good with that?
Wait, was that to spend the money? Because you have to move the money before you approve spending the money.
Well, we're not spending the money, we're just moving forward with selecting this bidder. And he'll need to come to that meeting with a firm price, with I think the rectangular layout is what we were all kind of leaning toward. And I'm not sure how that's going to affect either the fence or the place rubber. But I'm sure he can crap that out.
You start making changes on him, he's going to say, well, I can't, how long is a piece of string? How much is he going to push the fence out? You can't ask him for a fixed price when he doesn't know.
But we can't spend taxpayers' money unless we know a fixed price, and he needs to come to that meeting with a fixed price based on our agreed upon feedback. Is that, are we in agreement? I mean, do you have that one by John? Can you give me that piece right there? So we've all seen this piece, but if you look at it from the topographical perspective, this is the footprint of the equipment, and you'll see it's nowhere near a rectangle or a square. So we're talking about having a fence. It actually might be easier if we squared off and used less fencing if we squared off some of this area. So the fencing price might actually go down, but if we can move any of this equipment around to get more of a square or rectangle shape, and also enable some additional open area for picnic benches, picnic tables, things like that.
The layout ended that way because I asked him to minimize the amount of the surface to get the cost as low as possible. So, moving the fence and having mulch around it is not going to be a lot of money.
Because you're going to have seating for, if you're there with older kids, you're not going to be standing there while they're on the playground. You're going to be wanting to find somewhere to sit.
You need a mom spot, or a dad spot, or a grandfather spot.
Okay, so what was Mike's motion?
To move forward with Parks and Rec's recommendation to go with Carolina Recreation with the understanding that we would have a joint meeting on or before the next Parks and Rec meeting on the 29th to finalize the color and layout. And David, I believe seconded.
But I'm not sure that I agree with the layout. See, I think if Parks and Rec has looked over this, and these guys have proposed it, by the way, I don't think we need to second guess what they've put together.
I think you can move the fence. Instead of the fence following the rubber line, I think you could square off the fence and then create areas where you can put picnic tables and just cover that with mulch. And I don't think that would be a big expense. I don't think squaring off is going to be less linear feet. I think it's going to be more linear feet, but it's not going to be a huge increase in the cost.
And I also think that this vendor has already come back with $40, almost a $5,000. Is that right?
Yeah, and
$5,000
that was after the value engineering we did with him, which already gave us several $1,000s by packing it in closer. He reduced the surface area and got it down once, and then when he rebid, he came in just shy of $5,000 less than he bid the first time. So the guys really, really work with us.
Does your second still hold, or did you want to make?
No, recheck.
So how would you like me to restate the motion?
I'm okay with everything other than the layout. I think that these guys have done their due diligence. If this guy has already given us a reduction, I don't think we need to nitpick him apart.
Okay, I agree. So the motion will be to...
Wait, are you...
I'll retract my first.
You retracted your second? Okay, and you're retracting your motion. Okay.
The new motion will be to still have a joint meeting, to select Carolina Recreation, to go ahead with the final details, and have a joint meeting with Parks and Rec and Council on or before the 29th of March, either a special meeting or part of the Parks and Rec meeting, and award that bid.
I'll second that.
Does that meet your approval?
Yeah. And just so I understand, I can tell him he's going to get the job and then move forward working with Cheryl and George to draft the contract that would eventually be signed for the job.
And she should come to that meeting with the understanding that we're going to talk about color selection and our concern, not that he has to change this, but our concern is not having enough open space for benches and picnic tables. And see what he can come up with without raising the price. We need to firm, this is the dollars and cents of the price.
So before we vote, we're not moving money tonight?
Right.
And I think you'll need to if you want to be on the fast track.
Sure.
I'm not really sure exactly what you're doing. I think you're still in the I don't think they're ready to purchase yet.
I mean, I think the gist of it is your motion is to accept the bid subject to negotiating the final contract. Is what I heard.
Yeah.
Right. Which the money wouldn't need to be moved until the contract is approved and signed.
Yeah, we're not spending anything today.
It's like going to a car dealership and saying, I want to buy that truck. Whether it comes in red or blue or green, the price is going to be the same. Right?
Well, no.
You still got to have the money to pay for the truck.
Exactly, my point. So, are we in agreement as a council that the money is going to be coming primarily from fees and lieu? That a secondary source of income for the additional cost is going to come from the security cameras that are already budgeted and potentially the barricades?
I think if you did a motion to move the camera money to the playground project and move the remaining barricade money to contingency for the playground, and the rest would come from fees in lieu once we finalise the contract, that would work.
So is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
We can't make that motion, we have a motion open.
Yeah, true.
So, all in favor of Mike's motion? Okay, now Mike,
As a secondary motion, to use the fees as outlined in this document for fees and lieu money, the camera money, and the barricade money, not add to the Parks and Rec's budget, but just to reallocate these funds to cover the cost of the total expense, which we don't have an exact number on, to cover the cost of the playground.
I didn't follow that. I'm sorry.
I'm
not sure Cheryl did either.
You need to appropriate the fee in lieu, $122,530.
appropriate it
to a playground capital outlay.
Okay.
And to move the money, the $20,000 from cameras and
Don't you guys love all the red tape?
$10,678 from barricades. Move both those amounts to the playground.
This is all through separate motions and separate votes?
No, one
you
motion.
can do it all as well.
Rescind yours.
Pull my back.
Rescind yours.
Rescind mine. So the motion will be to allocate the fee and lieu money specifically to the playground fund,
Appropriate.
appropriate to the playground fund, and then also to reallocate money from the cameras and the barricades specifically to the playground fund. Cover the costs
Yeah, that works, right?
Okay.
with contingency.
I don't know what the amounts are.
And I'm just going to use the round dollars. Okay.
Second.
Who seconded?
Lori did.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
No, read back the motion again, Sharon.
Okay, so we're going to appropriate $122,530 from fee and lieu, and appropriate,
Reallocate.
transfer $20,000 from cameras to playground and $10,678 from barricades to playground. And what we're doing with the fee and lieu is you're appropriating a revenue and an expense. So
This is $153,209.23.
no cents. Can't do cents. Not in a budget. I don't do cents.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right.
Thank you, Council.
Before you leave the podium, there's one other item.
There are two things. Cheryl, will you try, John, will you let Cheryl know so she can call a special meeting, but we're going to try to do it on March 26th, that's your next Parks and Rec meeting.
That is.
Okay. And then.
Can you all make that night?
I'll make it work.
Yeah, 26th.
They meet at 6:30.
Can you do 6:30? Okay.
So that's when we'll try for it. And also in lieu of Jan not being here, we need to accept the resignation. I need to accept the resignation of Jerry Davis and appoint Brad Horvath to be a regular member of the Parks and Rec Committee. That's sufficient?
Yep. And while John's still here, can we discuss the organized sports?
Real quick. Mike, you want to do it?
We were approached formally by a letter, was it not? Email.
She called me in that email.
Was it asking if the park could be used for cross-country training as a backup in case the primary facility, which I believe is side of the church, got wet. I guess they're running on the grass cross-country. And the request was to allow the use of the park for backup. So that was the formal ask. And this goes directly against our rules and regulations with the park if there are no organized sports. So I wanted your input as well as council's moving forward.
When we developed the rules that we accepted, we spent a long time talking about organised sports in the park, and that for a passive park like Dogwood, having organised sports there was not appropriate. Immediately upon opening the park, we had some businesses that are in the sports training thing, spray painting the park, and having a lot of people running around, and we had complaints from people that were in the park walking the dogs about 20 people running past them when they're trying to walk the dog.
Whistles.
And so, since we got a great facility across the street at WCWA for organised sports, we always said, well, there's already facilities within Wesley Chapel for organised sports. Dogwood Park doesn't need to be that. And so the rule was discussed and debated, and not everybody agreed, but a majority said, let's just not allow organised sports in there.
And we've had issues, even since I've been on council, with fitness groups and high school track teams, and issues with parking and pickup and trash and bathrooms, and it's way more than just using the park.
And if you do it for one group, you now got to do it for everybody else. So we said, it'll get out of control, just let's not start doing it.
With the issues we have, I really don't want to pick and choose who's allowed to do something.
I don't want to be that cool.
Well, especially if we already have that in our policy.
And we haven't there for a reason. It was not an easy thing to do to stick that in there, but it's the organized sports. It's the there's a local company that is doing training formally, charging kids to be trainers, and then listing our park as their facility.
Maybe they could approach WCAA about earning some of their money.
Source of income. So I don't know, do we need a motion to not accept this, or do we need a motion to enforce our current policy, Cheryl? Or can we just come to a consensus?
I don't think you need any.
No.
So we'll just have Cheryl reply back that council chooses to uphold our current no group policy, no group court policy in the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
Parks
guys.
and Rec. Be patient. We're just going to take.
Sure.
I need a motion. I'm sorry. I need a motion to go into closed session with George to protect client attorney privilege.
So motion.
And
Second.
we'll be quick.
I put in this picture. This is blue and green from Bruce Line's way down the street. If you want to see what it looks like, if you want to think about colors for the next meeting, tell us what colors. But those are two that are blue.
Wait, okay. Okay.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I motion.
Thank you.
Cheryl, are you okay if we go ahead and let Mr. Nolan go before your...
I am fine. I'm feeling very sorry for him.
Yeah,
This is so typical for us.
Don't worry about it. I certainly understand.
you have some good stories, Joe.
Thank you all for having me back. I was unaware of the mayor's absence in the recent months, so I've been sending her some communications, so I'm not sure if all of you got that. But a couple updates. The resolution, Cheryl, do they have copies of the newest resolution? Okay, it does include some language that says the county will work with the village and the Wesley Chapel Fire Department to try to incorporate all of the village of Wesley Chapel within the Wesley Chapel Fire District. There are 3,200 parcels in the village of Wesley Chapel. 196 of those are in Baker, so it's a very, very small part. I misspoke last time. I said the break-even point with moving from a fee to a tax was about $300,000. It's actually lower than that. It's about $215,000. 210, excuse me. I did a quick analysis of the area that is in Baker, but also in Wesley Chapel, and I could only find 2 properties that were over that $210,000. Most people will still see a reduction in the fire fee, which will be a tax they will pay next year. Everybody has approved the resolution except Henry Bridge and Wesley Chapel. Henry Bridge did not have a quorum at their last meeting, but I'm doing something today. We'll approve it next week. And with that, I can answer any additional questions you may have had in the meantime.
My biggest concern is, like John and I live in the same subdivision. We live in Silver Creek. My side of the line, if I fall down and have a heart attack, I don't know if the response for it. But if John falls down and has a heart attack, he's going to wait for somebody to come all the way from the springs. Anything we can do about that?
Stephen, on medical, you are waiting.
Yeah, so I think do you mind if I come up?
Yeah.
So
anybody with information is welcome to speak.
Yeah, and I apologize too, because I sent an email previously, and I was glad to forward that out to everybody as well. But I think the intent of the resolution, I have not read the language, but I think the intent of the resolution allows for the village to have that contract with one fire department. Is that correct? It's not specific to Baker's.
So it's to try to get all of the city or the village limits within the Wesley Chapel.
Right. So as long as it's not specific to Baker's, that's the key, right? It doesn't need to be specific to Baker's. It needs to be inclusive for the village of Wesley Chapel as a whole. Because to your point, that would only solve one area. It would do nothing for your neighborhood, right? And so the language in the resolution needs to allow for the municipality to have the inclusion of the entire municipal limits protected by one fire department, right? And so, once again, I'll forward you an email that I had sent to Ms. Smith. But part of that discussions after the meeting, I went and had discussions with Chief Gaddy with Mineral Springs, which covers Silver Creek and some of that area. I sat down and had a discussion with Chief Honeycutt from Baker's about the area on Airport Road. And I also talked with Chief Porter from Stallings, because you have a very small portion on Waxaw Road and Hunters Point that's covered. The left-hand side of Hunters Point is covered by Stallings. The right-hand side is covered by Wesley Chapel, and one house in there is covered by Bakers. So you've got three different things going on. To Patrick's point, total very small, right? So 20 houses here, 30 or 40 houses here, whatever it is, but it needs to be cleaned up. And so I would just encourage you to make sure that the language in the resolution does allow the village to have that autonomy or authority to include all of the village citizens covered by one protection district. And then it would be a matter of the fire departments working with county staff and the Department of Insurance to move those lines, right? And so there, as I said last meeting, there's several things that have to happen. But I did what I thought the council's direction was, and had those conversations with those other fire chiefs. And like I said, those were conversations that have happened in the past, and there wasn't any major opposition to it. But that authority relies with the village. Just make sure the resolution, in your minutes, it specifically says Bakers. So make sure that it's...
Well, so there are two parts of this. So the resolution is just for Bakers because all of the other fire districts are tax districts. But the paragraph in the resolution does say the entirety of the village of Wesley Chapel within the Wesley Chapel Fire District. So that's where we kind of capture all of Wesley Chapel, not just what's in Bakers.
I would just defer to the league. You know what I mean? I'm not...
We have some weird lots in our subdivision, Silver Creek, that never voluntarily annexed into the village of Wesley Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are currently in the Monroe Springs Fire District but not part of Wesley Chapel Village.
Now, you're talking about different lines, John. You're talking about unincorporated Union County versus Union County?
Right.
And these are different lines.
Yeah. If you have an area in Silver Creek that's in unincorporated Union County,
still falls
then
under
that would
Baker.
still, I'm sorry?
Still falls under Baker?
No, Silver Creek, your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Mineral, it would be, the potential could be Mineral Springs. However, what myself and Chief Gaddy have talked about is, we're going to make that clean, right? So we're not going to let 2 or 3 houses, be serviced by one organization, because that doesn't solve any problem.
Can we make them annex in?
No. We can't, no. We only do volunteer.
What's the action list tonight? Are we doing a signing the resolution?
It's just to approve the resolution that will allow us to convert Bakers from a fee district to a tax district, and it'll begin working the process of trying to clean up those lines to get Wesley Chapel proper within one fire tax district.
Make a motion to accept the resolution to change the Baker's fee surface to fire district, as well as trying to get the entirety of Wesley Chapel into the Wesley Chapel Fire.
Second.
That was resolution 2020-03, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All in favor?
You can sign it at your own leisure if you don't need to sign it, but I appreciate the assistance with it.
You had any pushback from any of the other municipalities, or does this make sense to everybody?
It's one of these things that it's not making everybody happy, but it's not making everyone mad at the same time. We've been talking about fire service in the county for 20 years and how to fix it. So at some point, you need to put the best plan forward, and that's what this is now. I think the hope with the chiefs and myself is that moving forward, this isn't something we look at every 20 years. We need to be more adaptive as things change, as municipal limits change, as the nature of fire service change. We need to be able to adapt quicker and faster than we have in the past on something like this. So at this point, I would say yes, this is the best option we have, but we don't plan on stopping here.
So, little pushback from anybody else?
Not really on the we had a couple clarification questions in the Village of Lake Park. They just didn't quite understand. They have a unique situation where not all the people in their district were paying fire service. There were some that were getting it for free. So it was a little bit tricky to explain that. But outside of that, everyone has been fairly supportive of the fire service because it is a life-saving endeavor, and you want to be able to support, fund it.
Yeah, I hope I never get to meet you professionally. I hope you never have to come into my house to put out a fire.
Oh, not me.
Well,
Yeah.
If you rely on me to put out a fire, you're in trouble. I was going to say that.
that's like my insurance agent. I love my insurance agent, but I don't ever want to have to go see him.
Yeah.
That means I have a problem.
He has a way with words, doesn't he?
You're welcome. Thank you. So we'll report back as the progress moves forward, those district lines things, right? Because they're two, I mean, they are one topic, but they're two separate things. So we'll report back to the council as we move forward. Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. So Cheryl, your turn.
Oh my, okay. Okay. There's really not very much exciting in finance this month. If you look at on the very first line of the first page, the income appropriated fund balance, that's where you're going to see that $122,000 from the fee and lieu. That's going to increase next month. But the property tax is coming along really good, and zoning permits are doing good, and sales tax doing well. Expenditures are okay. I just really don't have anything that I really need attention to.
Cheryl, a question on sales tax. The WCA and WCWAA representative was talking about more businesses coming in, that increase in sales tax. What's the...
That's not really true.
Okay, thank you. All right.
The county will see it.
It goes to, first it goes to the entire state, and then it gets divvied up, and some comes back to Union County, and then really it's based on our property tax compared to the rest of the entity's property tax. So it's really a misnomer to be saying that.
That would be a great question for you to ask when we meet with the senator.
Senator?
And they recently changed that application method at the state level, I think, I read. There was
Not familiar with
nuance
it.
about that. I had to write it somewhere, not on this where,
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't affect the local level. But just because we have the commercial base here does not mean we benefit comparably to the amount of revenue generated by these businesses.
And in fact, it doesn't, because then we have to have a deputy, and we have to have other services, and it costs us.
I couldn't find my budget sheet, but the total taxes here is that we're able to get on sales tax is less than what it costs us for that one deputy.
Oh, yeah.
They want us to go up to 5 because we have so much to go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I'm done.
so do I have a question about director pilot?
Yeah, just clarification, because David and I both attended the last planning board meeting where this kind of came up, but we were continuing it. We were under the impression, David and I, that this was going to affect staff and not necessarily council. And I just wanted to get clarification on that.
It was anybody who receives a paycheck from the village.
So including planning board, does planning board know that?
Mm-hmm. And I've had one person say they're not going to do it, but I don't know what. I don't know.
What are our options for people who say, I don't want to give up my bank information?
George said that.
They forced me.
Yeah, George said we can make a blanket. With the blanket, you have to use direct deposit.
I didn't bring it up at planning board because we didn't really have good, we weren't sure. We wanted to get clarification before we brought it up. Because I was expecting pushback from at least one, maybe two people on planning board. And sure enough, we did.
Anyone receiving a paycheck, payroll check from the village.
Okay, direct deposit only. Okay.
And
And that was-
that goes into effect?
It is not that,
It is
correct?
not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, need your forms. Mm-hmm.
Because you can't pay for March.
So
When you
when we
know
get
you
our
should
March
register.
payment, it'll be direct deposit.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
To clarify, that was a decision that you, Jan,
Yes.
council made. That was not a decision made by an employee or anybody
No,
else.
not me.
It was mayor driven.
I guess the only thing was we just weren't clear when we made that decision that it covered everyone getting a paycheck very clearly.
That's why I asked for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough said.
Okay, that moves us to comprehensive plan public participation.
All right, you guys have a memo. Well, a plan, I should say, not my typical memo. You guys can make a motion if you want to move forward with this. You don't have to. You can just tell me, good, great, go for it. I just wanted to confirm that every member of planning board is helping me with at least one chapter. And once I get the nod to move forward with this, I will be kind of outlining those chapters, sending it to them, talking to them about what I need help with, what I don't need help with, so that they're very clear, because each chapter is a little different. We will have 2 joint meetings. The one is scheduled for the 2 hours before our next planning board meeting. There will be food. I'm still putting together stuff for that. That's just going to really be going over the goals. I want to make sure that council and planning board are on the same wavelength for goals, so that when planning board really jumps in and we start this, that everyone's on the same page. I don't want planning board spending 9 months and then having council hate everything. So we'll start there, and then you guys will meet again kind of once we've gone through all the information gathering and details to what the land use plan is going to look like. And that'll be fun. We'll have another joint meeting. We will do 2 public meetings, pretty standard. We will have a village survey. I have the options in there. We talked a lot about this at planning board, but essentially we'll have it online. We'll put postcards into everyone's mailbox. The planning board may have volunteered to stuff mailboxes for me. I'm not quite sure, but we will get them to every resident. And then we will spread the word as best we can using our communications committee. We will also, if someone wants to do a paper option, we can print one out and have them available and help them go through online if they want to come into the office.
Yeah, it might be great to have some paper copies for parking lots.
Well, I don't know if it'll all line up, but
I
we'll see.
bet there did live in Wesley Chapel. I mean, surely somebody at some point would be a resident and maybe just give you one.
Yeah, if the time frames work, then yeah, we'll talk about that. Focus groups. I wanted to get more than just the public meetings. Public meetings don't always draw a bunch of people unless they're nervous about someone coming in and destroying their town. So on the off chance that we don't get a ton of people, I wanted to have something else to gain public input. So the focus groups, I would want to have Deb put stuff out on Facebook, and we can send something up to the Sunshine List as well, to have people submit their name for one of the different groups. That would be transportation, public services, water, sewer, stormwater, environmental, parks and recreation, and an economic development. My goal would be to pick about 5 people. I can run those names by you guys, or I can just go. If we have 5, then we pick those 5. If we have 10, then I would need help figuring out which 5. I don't want anyone to serve on 2 focus groups if I can help it. And that would just be a simple meeting, hopefully during the week, because I know I have to watch my hours, where they can come in. We can spend a couple hours just talking about what are the issues, what are the solutions, what are you guys okay with. And we'll also do one for business residents. That feeds into that economic development, but I think it's enough of a difference that we have 2. We have the business residents themselves, and then we have people who live here and what economic development means to them. And then we also have one for developers. And this could be, I'll pick the developers. Just a couple. We don't have a ton, but I want to make sure it's someone that's developed recently. Someone that developed 10 years ago or even 7 years ago. Our ordinances have changed since then, so I want someone recent. And we'll go through them and see what we get. I have some ideas, but I don't know how concrete they really are. So I'd like to bounce some off of those people as well. All of this, the focus groups and the survey, you guys will have a report on both of those to get the outcomes, and that'll be incorporated into the plan as well. I've updated the work plan and schedule. I'm trying to keep it as close to what I originally had. You guys know that I've had some obstacles with that in the past couple months, but we're going to try and sink in. The survey, when it comes to questions and improving those, a lot of that may end up being emails, just because of with the planning board and things like that, just because of the time frame. It's a shorter time frame. But I will be producing the questions, getting planning board to vet them. I've already talked to John about getting ideas from the park and rec board, and that way we know that they're not written a certain way for a certain purpose. We know that they're straightforward, and we can collect all that. But we're going to try and keep getting it done by December. We will see. If you guys come into the office, I may look a little tired. little cranky, but no, for the most part. And the next steps I put, so establish the joint meeting time. Obviously, I've already done that. Reach out to the planning board reps and move forward. Draft the survey questions, and also start getting those specific calls up for the focus group. Building the framework.
Melissa, do you need anything from us tonight?
If you guys have specific topics you definitely want me to ask at least one survey question on, email it to me. And that way I make sure it's covered.
I asked this end of last year before Beth left. Do you have the tools you need to complete this on time?
The whole plan or just the public participation stuff?
Both.
I'm tentatively yes. I mean, I have the stuff. It's just a matter of can I actually get it done in time? And I don't know the answer to that. I have talked with Amanda this month. I have a lot going on because of the conditional zoning and some other things. So I'm going to go over hours in March, and I'll be taking those off in April, I believe, because I probably can't take them off in March. So we'll work through it tentatively. If I get to the point where I know that I'm going to miss something, I will make sure you guys are aware of that.
Are you transferring some of the workload onto Amy?
Yes.
So that you have more free time to focus on some of these other items?
Yes, but it's training her, so it's not a here, Amy, do this.
I understand.
I have to train you for a month or two, and then you can go do it on your own. So it's not. There's a lag time, is all I'm saying. There's a lag time, but I've briefed her on the comp plan, and we've talked about it, and we've already talked about ways she's going to be helping me. So I'm confident that it will get done, and we will move forward smoothly. It's just getting all the pieces. The biggest pieces really are coordinating all the different meetings and getting the time to do the stuff before this meeting to get it approved by this time, and you guys understand that. The one thing I will say, the postcards that will have the survey address on it, that was not in the original budget for the comp plan. So we may have to either move money around or find money in our budget. I don't know if it already exists for postage.
No, we don't have money available.
Okay.
Definitely not.
I don't know how many stamps.
Are we going to mail them?
No, you got volunteered to stuff mailboxes.
I'm going to go with that if I can.
Okay. The biggest concern in both ends of the spectrum is making sure that everyone who's a resident of Wesley Chapel gets the opportunity, whether they choose to or not, to fill out the survey. And how we notify them that is the question. And I had some concerns, and Robin addressed those, so I think we're good.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we'll need to print out the postcards.
When do you need the postcards?
I don't know yet.
Okay, but not before the next council meeting.
Probably not.
Okay.
The format needs to be just something very, please go and whatever we have.
I got it. Yep.
So that we can get, and Robin was very successful doing one in
Weddington. We had over a 30% response rate.
Did they just stop in the mailbox, or
They have a newsletter, and so they put it in the newsletter, and then they use their sunshine list and their social media blasts for that.
Good.
We had it open for 2 weeks, and I think we added an extra week just to get an extra bump. And they have a larger staff, and they have a lot more resources too. So they bumped it out as best they could, and we got a great response rate.
And in all seriousness, Sherry did comment on how successful the R4RG mailbox stuffing campaign went.
Her and Chuck both said that they were willing to do it.
It's intense. It's very intense.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time. And to cover the entire village, make sure you're covering the whole village, because to John's point, not every house in a subdivision is part of the village. So you're going to have a lot of places that are not.
We can get the addresses.
You know, so it's,
and if you guys would rather,
when
then
you're
we.
shopping mailboxes, you don't really have time to look at the stupid address. You're just going.
So would you rather us look for money to do the postage?
Which is why I raised the idea of mailing them. Seriously.
It's up to you guys.
Can we find out how much it is?
Mm-hmm.
To mail everybody a postcard?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, might as well. Because I feel like a money tree today. A money tree.
Money tree. Yeah. But no, I mean, it does take time with the stuff in the mailboxes, but the way we did them is we put them on bright colored paper, we put them in Ziploc bags, and we clothespins and clothespin them to the outside of the boxes, as you saw by
Well, I feel like wires out in the lot.
And we did that to make sure they didn't get damaged and that they saw them, because with the paper boxes, because nobody gets paper anymore, there's more birds' nests in those things, and or blacktops that people won't put and stuff, or just
Or you can see the last flyer from the last Parks and Rec from the last year still in that.
I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine is very much that way.
Whereas I'm thinking at least if it comes through the official mail, it might at least get a little bit more of a cursory look, so that they got a whole bunch of mail.
Well, most people will look at a postcard before they'll look at a letter.
Yeah. Well, let's find out how much it costs.
I can
We'll go
find
from
that
there.
out. Mhm.
For next month.
I'm sorry, for both the postcards and the postage.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And you good, Ron?
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you.
One of the things that was brought up, Mike, I think it was a planning board, right? Was the possibility of using, of getting signs, similar to the campaign signs, and putting those out.
A few key locations, yeah, that would be very inexpensive, but should, it all comes down to who's going to design a catchy graphic that you're going to be able to read within 3 seconds.
And put a survey monkey on
I'm getting signed rumor.
I know a person. If anything, you would just put community survey C website. You wouldn't put a web address on a sign if you expect people to know.
Actually, read it down.
And I would actually think that's where signs on businesses' doors might be more effective than trying to get them while driving by. I don't know.
A lot of them won't let you put a sign
How
up.
about John with an A-frame sandwich board standing out here on the corner?
I make a motion. Just kidding.
How about Mike?
I make a motion. Mike, how much free time you got?
Okay.
All right, we're done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The next item is EPCON's proposed conditional rezoning. That's the 115 houses on 44 acres across from Wesley Oaks.
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
I just want to make a statement, and while I haven't done it yet, I want you guys to know that the county planners reached out to me as soon as they got the application. I knew that they were talking about it because we had previous conversations, but when it was submitted, they did reach out, and I sent them an email and asked for the site plan, and they provided that. 1, 2, just like I did with Crestwinds, I plan on sitting down with the planners and talking to them about concerns that we have, just to make sure that there's another layer of, and they've always been very receptive to that.
In the past, we have sent a resolution like we did for Crestwinds, and Mike and I talked about the difference between a formal letter and a resolution. And Mike, I would like you to entertain maybe the next item as a council response to the public comment period that the county is doing for their vision plan, where a letter might be better suited there to explain our points. But you said you wanted a letter versus a resolution?
Sometimes people, the people that are getting those, they're hard to read the resolutions as detailed as they are. I think we're just trying to communicate to the county that we're not happy about what's going on our borders, and we're really not happy if this is going to go smack down in the middle of Wesley Chapel. And that could very simply be said without the lengthy hereto, wherefore, out thou, whereas, in a resolution. And then Robin was telling me today that there are going to be more than one opportunity to give that input, and there are some opportunities or some particular times when that would be more suited. No?
For which project?
That's for the second item. We were confused talking to
I was very confused. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. So there are 2 items. One is the high-density senior, and one is the public comment period.
Yep. Right. For EPCON, historically, you guys have done the resolution, but if you wanted to do a letter that condensed it, you can provide both. It's up to what you decide.
My preference is the sternly written letter that basically lets the county know that we're not happy about it, and it's coming from the village as a whole, or on behalf of the residents of Wesley Chapel, the village of Wesley Chapel Council feels this is not appropriate, and in our vision for Wesley Chapel. Something simple.
What do you think they're more receptive to? Or what is more official?
More official is always going to be a resolution, right? Because it's legitimately an official thing.
Can we attach a letter to the resolution?
Yeah, if you want to.
I'm fine with that too, but basically the long and short of it is we need to let them know that this is not going to make our residents happy. This does not go with our vision of Wesley Chapel. And it's bad enough that you're doing it on our borders, but now you're doing it down smack in the middle of Wesley Chapel.
So I can still make motions, right? George left. I will make a motion that we pass a resolution similar to our last one that we did with Crestwinds, changing the name and the intersections, and ask Mike to draft a letter
I mean, what I just said was probably all I put in there.
for
That we're not happy about the high density on our borders. We're certainly not happy with what's going on in the middle of Wesley Chapel. The residents of Wesley Chapel, who we represent, don't feel this is a good fit.
So Mike will draft the letter, Robin will approve it, and I'll sign it.
Fine.
If everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Discussion?
I don't think we need a motion for that. We just,
So now, so all in favor?
oh, okay, then what was the motion?
I think we have to make a motion because it's a resolution.
Yeah.
It's a resolution and a letter.
And it'll go out before the next, it'll go out ASAP.
Yes, Mr. Chairman?
I
What
mean,
kind of time
it's not
frame?
going to wait till the next meeting.
No.
Okay.
Robin, what kind of time frame do we have on this? To get it in?
Well, they just applied, so they still have to get county planning comments back and work through the process too. They have to have their community meetings, and just like we're working through Five Stones.
I guess the question would be, when would be the best time to slip this in? We'll have
Do it as soon as possible, and that way they have it in their head. And that way, when I go to talk to them, it's not. Yeah, you guys are being proactive, and I think that that's a positive thing.
Well, I'm just glad the fact that the county is now sharing information with us in a timely fashion, where before we find out about it 6 months from now.
We swapped. They got Five Stones, and we got Epcot.
There you go.
It's very exciting.
All right, good, thank you.
All right. The next one is a public comment period for the 2050 comprehensive plan visioning process. And I understand that this is the public's chance for input and that we should attend the meetings to hear more. But I would like council to draft a letter. Well, and I don't know, everybody needs to read and decide which vision they want to support. It does seem like we would support municipal. I mean, I know we can't control what Indian Trail and Waxhaw and other people do, but we did say to the county that we wanted them to respect our municipality when they're making decisions and our donut holes in our borders. So we could write a letter stating that's what we support and here's why, because they have bullet points, and I guess we could probably say, when you take the survey, there are bullet points.
I can get you guys some more information on that too, probably. I will say that, so I'm on the municipal subcommittee group for the comp plan, and we've had a couple meetings. The subcommittees came up with these visions that they're really asking for input on. And so when you read them, you can tell the environmental group probably came up with this one. And the municipal one, or maybe the general citizens probably came up with this one. And the agricultural group, you can tell which one they, and so move through it that way. I don't want you guys to think, not that you do, but that they just crafted it out of nothing. They've been working with the subcommittees. We got a more detailed presentation on them in our group. And so we got to see kind of pros and cons. Some feedback that they had gotten from residents was just do key items as opposed to pros and cons, because someone might see it as a pro, someone else might see it as a con. And so they reformatted it a little bit differently for the survey and whatnot. They also have their public meetings, so if you guys want, I would attend. Obviously, there's one now. Well, there was one tonight that we didn't make it to. There's one tomorrow night in Indian Trail, and yeah, I think there's another.
Julie Thomas on Parks and Rec is like the vice chair of the citizens group for that whole county planning thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she's
Is
going
that
to call.
what you're motion tomorrow?
So maybe my ask should be that you all consider which vision you would support, and that we discuss it at the next meeting, making a statement.
Mhm.
Because even though the public comment period will have ended, they will still have time to digest what we
Exactly.
say. So if you will take time to read the survey and decide which way you support, we might not all support the same thing and this won't go anywhere, but if you will read them, and I'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Gravel driveways, gravel roads, gravel everything, all impervious surface.
My favorite one was
All
the
pervious
corporate one,
surface.
which was basically raise your taxes, let's do sidewalks, raise your taxes, let's do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of raising taxes in there.
Well, they have to ask, right? Because if they ask you if you want to do something, they have to point out that you're going to have your taxes increase in order to do it. And so I think that's responsible. The one thing I would suggest, and I had said this with Amanda earlier, was I think the best way to approach this is say, this is what we support. And then, fine tune the word, but I have heartburn with this, and this. But we support this. Because that way it shows that, okay, they're proactively reaching out as well. We're trying to find what works best for us and what we would support as a municipality, as opposed to the resolution saying we don't support.
I think a good way to say it is, based on surveys of our residents have said this, or our residents have said that. That way it's not our opinions, it's who we represent.
Well, yes. And who's going to write that? You guys will come it together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's going to carefully review it, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
So,
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't supposed to be doing anything.
Are you going to be attending the meeting in Indian Trail tomorrow?
I'm going to try to. I have a prior engagement. I'm going to try and come afterwards, but...
Okay. Lori and I believe we're going. So.
I would like to have a PTA.
I've already, for background, I've already seen everything that they're going to submit to you guys, so it's not imperative.
You've seen it.
Do you want to pay me for
If you've
this?
seen it, you're good. We have enough of your time. Yeah.
I'm cheesing.
I have not. Okay, so that brings us to discuss recommendation and possible budget amendments to fund a quote to review job classifications and create personnel policies. So Lori and I have been working on this for a while, and if Lori wants to speak to it, we really need to have our clerk and planner job classifications reviewed by an outside third-party professional agency that's not us, to determine how we should be paying them and classification, or how the jobs should be classified, exempt, not exempt. And we need to develop personnel policies that will ensure we are in line with the Fair Labor Standards Act and other HR laws and regulations. So we met with someone. It is not cheap, but nothing yet. I forwarded the contract. They can't start for 3 months, so
Can we wait that long?
we don't have a choice.
They can start in May.
I didn't realize it was that big of a delay.
Well, I think they said they could start in May, and then take 3 months to do it. So
That's only a month and a half.
And they are going to. I think they're representatives might be a little bit closer, so it might not take as long as we project.
Do we keep the status quo with the interim?
Yes.
So you're going to cross over 2 fiscal years.
So we have to pay a deposit.
This was not currently budgeted, is that correct?
Correct.
So to get on there, here it is.
It says $22.50 at the beginning of the study.
The total being what?
$4,500 with an estimated $500 for expenses.
And actual travel time. At $25 per hour.
So let's see. Save the contract in my notes. Thank you. So
$500. The cost is proposed works $4,500. In addition, bill will $1,000, meals, lodging, printing, and supplies is paying around $500. Actual travel time at $25 per hour. We'll bill the village for one payment of $22,250 and begin the study and final payment of the same amount plus actual itemized expenses and travel time when the study is completed. So yes, half this fiscal year, half the rest. Half the fiscal year. Oh.
Scared me.
Well, once they start, how long will it take them to do it?
She said about 3 months.
So Cheryl, if this is the budget, we're pulling money from contingency?
Yeah. Well, when they say the time for performance will be 3 months, that means how long it'll take to do it?
Mm-hmm. They want to give themselves academic stuff.
But they won't start before May.
No, they have other towns that they're serving, and they're not projected to be.
Plus, there's also things that they'll do, send to us for review that goes back to them, so there's that. Some of that back and forth time.
So it's like,
because this falls under 2 fiscal years, we're going to have to budget out of contingency the initial deposit and then budget again for next year for the remainder.
Which softens the blow a little bit. So.
Well, to spread it over 2 fiscal years, but it's still a lot of money to output for something that.
Not if you get sued.
No, I agree. So the motion will be to approve the $2,250 for the initial down payment.
but no, we have to budget the whole thing because I'm signing it that we have pre-audit, that we have all the amount available to spend, so we have to budget the whole thing.
So we have to approve the spend in general and then figure out in a separate motion how to pay for the deposit versus how to pay for the remainder?
No. We have to first do a budget amendment to move the total amount. Is it $5,300 or whatever, something like that?
Say up to $5,000.
Well, it's 45 plus 5 plus.
Because the travel time is $25 an hour, and the person's in Charlotte.
So up to
It has to be a
$5,500.
couple hundred bucks.
So say 5,200.
Okay.
So we have to do a budget amendment for 5,200.
But and so make a budget amendment and take that out of contingency and put it in.
We don't have any contingency, I don't think.
That would be my next
Ooh.
question.
I think you're going to hit fund balance again.
Anything else that would fall under this realm in the current budget?
You will almost totally wipe out your contingency. You have 53.95, so.
Is there anything else in the current budget that this would even remotely fall under?
No.
Not office supplies, I'm grasping at straws here.
I think it comes under council's salary. No.
Delay our salary into next year, or the next fiscal year.
And this is not something that we completely delay until the next fiscal year.
I don't want to delay it.
The annual retreat is $5,000.
Oh yeah, we're not having a retreat. Ding, ding, ding. There we go. Good job,
Well, that's 5,000, but you still need 200. So.
It's almost the one.
And so we'll take $5,000 from the retreat and $200 from contingency. Based on everything, all the research that I've done, that Lori's done, and the experts we've talked to, whether it's school government or the MAPS group or the League of Municipalities, I feel like this is the best way to protect the village and our employees moving forward.
I think it's really, I honestly, this is one of the village that's been around for us to not have had some of these things in place. I know we were small and we built over time, but we're at the point we've just added one staff member. I keep hearing you guys talk about maybe another staff member and other things that it's just in our best interest to have a staff.
Well, I agree. So, should we be looking at this from a perspective of if we add more people, whether it's a maintenance person for the park or whether it's another person for the town, do we need to be proactive and ask for more than just the current staff?
No, because she says in here that if we add, part of the contract is if we.
I just don't want to go to this expense,
The
hire
maps
Parks and
group,
Rec maintenance person next year, and turn around and say, okay, we have another day of expense.
the maps group will provide telephone consultation and will classify new or revised positions as needed for up to 5 years following the study for $200 per position. Because you don't know what your position entails until you have your position. But the personnel policies themselves will work no matter who you hire, because they are HR regulations and laws and stuff.
So you can make motions.
Okay. Then I make a motion that we move $5,000 from the retreat and $200 from contingency to put in a fund called a line item, whatever Cheryl wants to call it, to enter into contract with the MAPS group of the local municipalities for the job classification study and development of personnel policies.
Second.
In the grant,
Did you finish that motion?
Yeah, because I already said it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, that moves us to approving a quote from Unity Landscape to repair the dry pond at Town Hall for $825. Mike?
Yeah, we tabled this last week, but we wanted more details, and I did meet with the landscaper on site, and he went through in more detail what it was going to entail, and trust me, the $825 is a bargain for the work that we're going to be getting done. It includes him actually getting waders up to his waist, walking out there, hand pulling out the cattails in the area that's overflowed from the retention basin. There's some erosion issues that's going to be dealt with that come from the parking lot that go down toward the catch basin. Well, the long and short of the $825 is a very reasonable price, the amount of work that he's going to be doing, and this is above and beyond the pond maintenance contract and the landscaping contract. So,
Is there money in the parking lot
for this?
This is Town Hall.
Oh, this is Town Hall.
This is Town Hall.
While you're on Unity, when you're done, I've got a Unity issue I need council guidance on.
So,
I guess
is there money in the Town Hall budget?
There is money.
For landscape, for town hall repairs, or?
There is money in the maintenance services.
All right, I'll make a motion, we approve the quote from Unity Landscape to repair the dry pond at Town Hall for $825.
Second.
Discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Can we get John's input from?
So, it's related to the budget. It's a situation we have with Unity. We signed a contract with them, which was for 1 year at the rate we're currently paying, with an option to extend for 2 years at a rate to be negotiated. The contract expired, we never negotiated a new rate, but we've continued paying since then the current rate. For budgeting purposes, I could let sleeping dogs lie and do nothing, but then we might get a surprise when because he did it for Silver Creek, he said, holy crap, I can't do this for that money anymore, I need you to rebid it. And so the one approach would be do nothing, budget today's number and just hope nothing happens in the next fiscal year. Or the other approach, which was Brad's suggestion, was no, you need a solid number, you need to be upfront with the guy and say, contract's expired, do you want to agree to continue at the current rate through the next period, or do you want us to go out and rebid it?
But you're almost guaranteed to get an increase.
Yeah, because chemicals have gone up, labour's gone up, everything's gone up. Now, in the Silver Creek case, we were working on a 3-year-old price, and the rate went up 30%. We're only working on an 18-month-old price right now.
Yeah.
Like so what I'm looking for is guidance. Do I say nothing and just let it ride, and then we may be over budget if he recognises that he could have had an increase? Or do I be upfront with him and say, let's sit down and negotiate a new price, and I then budget that? I need some guidance on what
If he goes up, does it have to be rebid?
When we
have
started,
the option to rebid. We can either renew at the new negotiated rate, or if we don't like what he does, we can then rebid it.
Or you can say nothing.
Or you
And
say nothing and do it.
we have not had a contract all this year, so he hasn't said anything to me that he's upset with the rate or anything.
And just to add to the conversation, we sat with the landscaper, I guess, last spring and said, look, here's where we are when you're taking over the contract. We want by next spring to be in much better shape, both the town hall and at the park, from a landscaping perspective. And if we just keep flipping landscapers to a different landscaper every couple of years, we're not giving the guy the chance to show us what he can do.
He said he needed at least 2 years to fix the grass. If you look at the grass today versus the way it was before we got this new guy, it's a hell of a difference. It's still not as good as I'd like to see it.
Well, it's not really as green as your yard.
Right. But it's way better than it was. So he's doing a good job. What I'm concerned about is I'll budget the current rate and then I'll end up getting an increase and I'll be over budget on next year because I wasn't upfront in defining exactly what the rate going forward would be. So I'm looking for guidance. What do you want me to do?
Do a lot of contracts.
I mean, I would be opposed to at least bringing it up to them. Let them know, at least that way you eliminate a surprise.
That's what I
on your
want.
end later on.
That's what I want.
And knowing that you've already had conversations about, how important it is to have longevity with this vendor, I think he's going to be fair with us.
Right.
Well, keep in mind that when he did the same thing, John's in charge of the Homeowners Association Landscaping Committee, and they went 30%.
But that was him approaching us because he acquired the company that was doing our HOA landscaping, and he finally said, I can't keep going at this rate. This rate is too low. I can't afford to. I'll walk away. Or you need to rebid it, or I need an increase. So we did rebid it.
That rate was 3 years old.
That rate was 3 years old. We're only 18 months old.
But it was also a different company.
Yeah.
This is the same person. Yeah, but he didn't inherit this rate. Yeah.
Right. He bid this rate.
What do you guys want to do?
Lauren, your thoughts? I think we stay with it.
Well,
I understand that. Stay with it and just be quiet, or stay with it and negotiate a new rate. And if we don't like a new rate, should he propose one? At what point do I rebid it? If the increase is greater than 10%, do I rebid it?
If we don't have a contract now, why would we go?
We have a contract with an option to renew for 2 additional years. We never, at a rate to be negotiated, we never negotiated a new rate.
Okay.
So basically, I'm opening up the negotiation. If I mention it to him, I'm opening up the negotiation a few months away.
Does he listen to council recordings?
If you just wait, if there's going to be an increase, there'll be an increase. But why bring it upon yourself?
That's going to run.
No surprises.
What notice does he have to give us before he has a rate increase?
I don't think it's really addressed in the contract.
It was a contract for 1 year.
But the contract's
at a
over.
rate with an option to renew for 2 years with a rate to be negotiated.
We're past it.
We're past the first year date.
Shame on them.
Yeah, shame on them, but possibly shame on us. I mean, if he comes back next month and says, "Hey, you guys,
then we budget.
Yeah, I mean, you underpaid me for how many months so far this year?
He can't.
6 months.
We don't have a contract, so he can't.
I don't think he can come back.
He wouldn't do it, and it's just.
But he could come back with a surprise increase.
Yeah, and then we go out and bid.
I would like to just not deal with this issue right now. Keep our mouths shut and keep paying what we're paying, and then we don't have to worry about changing. I don't want to have to run into a situation where we have to change landscapers again and then start over with a new guy going, we're going to measure your fertilizer, we're going to measure your lime, we're going to measure your... And we got this guy broken in.
Yeah.
And he's doing
I've been out counting his bags of lime, his bags of fertilizer, and his bags of seed to make sure he's given us what he said he was going to give us.
Right.
So I don't want to change either, but you need to understand that what I'm budgeting may not be the number we end up spending. And don't be giving me hell with...
We already budgeted The current year, when we budgeted for this year, we put in, I think, a 4 or 5% increase, and we've never spent it, so.
Right.
We could do that this
So
year.
the direction is to be quiet, don't say anything, and
budget
budget the same as it is.
Another price increase.
Budget 5% above today? Okay, that's one.
Above the current
Budget. Above the current.
budget or the current rate? Because then you're going up to like a 10%
We did 5% of the rate.
of the current rate.
Of the current rates in this
5%
budget.
above the current rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll annualize year-to-date expense, add 5%, and that's our budget. And I won't say anything to the contractor, we'll just be quiet. Okay?
And that will apply to both the park and the town hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just verifying that.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, as you guys sat down tonight, there was this information. There's a cover sheet that synopsis everything that's underneath it. If you want to look at the details, you can look at each bit individually. But the cover sheet shows you that JDS Incorporated was the first company we went out to. We said, what will it cost to replace these microphones and replace the receiver these go to? We started off talking with Guitar Center, who sells the equipment, but they didn't do the installation. They recommended JDS. JDS was also the company that did the initial setup for us with the equipment for the park sound system. And when we saw the number of 3261, actually we don't pay the tax, so it's $3,198. We didn't know if that was a good price, a bad price, a high price, a low price, or whatever. We didn't know anything. So given the price amount, we put it out to bid to additional companies, AE Global Media, More Audio Design, and Coda Communications, and with the understanding that we didn't want microphones that we were going to have to be replacing every few years. So you want something that's digital, you want something that is more robust, in both the microphone and a receiver, so they bid accordingly. So you can see on the top page the synopsis of those bids. So I think we've done our due diligence for the taxpayer, and we bid this out to 4 different companies. The Coda one was the one that really surprised me at almost $10,000 when the first bid came in at about $3,200. The other bids were, again, not apples to apples, but they both basically repair this broken system.
Is there money in our budget for this, or is it something we're budgeting for next year?
Cheryl, do we have anything left in
We did not budget this.
so we already talked about our contingency not having much there.
You just spent.
Well, we only spent $200 is what was left, and we pulled the rest of it out of it. So
No,
do we have anything in town hall repairs, or do we have anything in any other category? Because I have the sheet in front of me.
Can we, could it be something that we accept the bid, but tell them we can't fill out?
Well, we've been running with it the way it is now, and just trying to enunciate really loudly so that everybody can hear us. We can continue on that way if that's what council wants to do. But
Will
you asked,
still be good for July?
we'll see why not. I think we can clarify that with, tell them we want to, if we choose a bidder, saying we'd like to do this, but because of budgeting reasons, we can't do it until June 31st or thereafter, July 1st.
I mean, you could do the contingency because you're right, you took it from the annual
But is there
retreat.
anything else under town hall that we can pull this from that we've over budgeted for?
Because we still have 2-3 months where you might need some contingency money.
Well, town hall office maintenance services, miscellaneous town office supplies.
No, those top lines are all taken. they're all full. I don't know, communications services and supplies, you have 4,000 there. That was Deb's
services.
communication committee.
What else did we put under communication services?
Well, that was for Deb's committee if they wanted to.
We might want to tap that for the service stuff, potentially, that more expensive.
Well, that was for her committee. It was for her.
That was for the.
If we want to hire,
Rip the money.
I don't think she's going to use it, but you know.
No, because you know our pictures for free.
Well, no, we pay for framing them and all. That comes under artwork.
Well, we have communications services supplies, then we have, I'm sorry, I was reading that wrong. Wow. Well, it's up to council. Do you want to wait and budget this for the next fiscal year, or do you want it returned now? I think it's kind of embarrassing when people look at the podium and they tap on the microphone, there's nothing there.
You did all the work, so you.
All I did was the legwork gathering the bids. Do you guys want this fixed or not?
I'd like to give it a month to look through it. I mean, to make a decision possibly on $10,000.
Well, I don't think we would go with, I don't think we would go with $10,000
I'm not ready to vote on it tonight.
Okay, well then we'll table it until, let me know from one way or the other, and I'll see in the meantime, would you like me to go to the low bidder and see if what the terms are on the bid? We'll do that.
Okay. All right, so that leaves us to council comments. We'll start with microphone.
Well, I've got a bunch of them, so if I give you 2 or 3 and then I come back, please allow me to do that. Like on a sheet.
For that next month, right?
Maybe I'll start with David.
Yeah, because I think we've actually talked about the survey. We talked about the meeting tomorrow on the comp plan. We did an update on the stormwater meeting, and we're not supposed to see the pictures in the conference room yet of Deb. I did see works letter, or use microphones. Talk about direct deposit. David, what do you think on the meeting with Buxton? Do you want to postpone, or do you want to?
Yes, I'm already asking. We're going to postpone.
Postpone?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know if Jan's still not back in the saddle. Let me know, and I'll join you at that meeting.
Thanks.
And those meetings I can normally do Monday through Thursday from like 10 to 1.
But just, if it's more than 2 of you, it'll be a special meeting and it'll be open to the public. So.
The one thing I had, we had an issue that came up this week, or last week, that I wanted to talk about in the group. The extra part-time deputy meeting that was postponed or canceled, I'm not sure which. Do we want to talk about that?
What was that like?
I think it was an initiative from Marvin. They were trying to get the 3 towns to go together and get some leverage up against the county. And Weddington didn't participate and we didn't participate, so there was not any leverage.
I spoke to the mayor of Marvin and I spoke to the mayor of Weddington, and neither one of them were happy about the meeting, and they all wanted to postpone as well.
Didn't Marvin reach out to us about a joint contract, and we were like, nah.
Yeah, Marvin has reached out to us twice.
Right.
And I don't know if it's the mayor, but, maybe you don't necessarily have to have the mayor if you have enough council people. I don't know.
Well, it didn't seem to be a quorum of council from the discussions I've had. The other thing that I wanted to, I'll have to talk about you guys one-on-one on this. So that's it for my notes. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Lauren?
Good night and good luck.
David?
Ditto, Mark. Well, no, I do have one comment. I'd like to encourage us as a council to also encourage the other boards and committees that serve the village. I know how important this comprehensive plan is. I also know that the unity amongst any board or any council, any group is important. But I think there comes a point to where even if we disagree, Lori, if you and I disagree, then we need to say, okay, the majority agrees in a certain fashion and moves forward. I could see us getting bogged down for a long time on the survey, and I think the details, the finite details of the survey they'll take care of themselves. But I think we really need to make an effort to continue to push to get this out because it's out of order.
And we need to leave the survey alone and keep our fingers on it, because the last council screwed it up.
Yeah, and I addressed my concern with Robin, and she addressed all my concerns, so I'm fine with it.
And if you would like to share that at a planning board meeting, if it gets hectic.
I will be delighted to.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, let's open comments for that joint meeting.
Uh-huh.
And so, a motion for adjournment, anyone?
Well, comments from Amanda Fuller?
It was, we miss you, Jen, come back soon. Everybody go home and take some Tylenol.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I'm for staying for the